Hi, my name is Tony Williams, and we'd like to welcome you to a very important interview that we're going to be doing here in just a few seconds with Mr. Vernon Watson of WBQP TV. And we're going to be talking about the history of WBQP, how WBQP began, and what caused him to do this. And I'm quite sure a lot of you have watched WBQP over the years, and you really wonder what motivated Mr. Watson to start WBQP. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore. So we're going to let you hear from Mr. Brandon Watson, the founder of WBQP TV, right here in Pensacola, Florida. Mr. Brandon, welcome to this interview. You normally interview everybody yourself. So how it feel to be on the opposite end today of being interviewed yourself?
Well, just a little weird, but I'm glad you took the opportunity to interview me. Nobody ever get a chance to interview me, and so thank you. I appreciate you for taking your time and the effort of wanting to understand how do we get to where we are today for WPQP.
Since you mentioned that, uh, I often wondered myself because I remember. First of all, let me ask you: how long has WBQP been in Pensacola and on the air?
Tony, we went on the air in June of 1992. Okay,
Wow.
June of 1992. So we've been on the air for 31 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, 31 years. It's been a long struggle. It was many years to get to that point. Several years of getting the license.
Right.
From that point. But it all started way back before then, Tony. The motivation of television, and I just didn't wake up one morning and said I'm going to create a TV station. That was a logical process that came with that. That. So where do you want to start?
All right, let's go back, and okay. I want to know how and what year was this, how old you were, and out of all the things that were put in your mind, because so what we see now is where you're at today.
Right.
So, but I and the viewers are gonna want to know what motivates you, because something had to motivate you. So let's start from the beginning. How old were you, and what motivates you to open a TV station, or whether it's something else to lead to this point?
Well, Tony, I don't. I can't really tell you exactly how old I was, but the motivation, without me even knowing it, obviously went back even when I was a child. As you know, and I know I was, and everybody else knows that I was born in Burnt Corn, Alabama, on a farm. And so on the farm, among the things that we had to do was pick cotton. And there was some long days, long hot days out there.
Yeah, I remember them days. I've done that too.
Long hot days out there when you're picking cotton. So you have to program your mind to do stuff. And one of the things is instinctively to me that happened. I always used to think about video cameras. Okay. And you asked me why that. Well, back then we had what we call those wish books. Okay. The only thing that we had to was Sears catalogs and J.C. Penney catalogs and Bell Hess catalogs. We used to call them wish book. We wish you'd have something. But for whatever the reason, Tony, I don't understand the reason, but for whatever reason, I always was drawn to these film cameras, these 8mm film cameras. And I always thought, when I get big enough, I'm gonna buy me one of these video cameras. Why that I don't know, but that I was driven to that point. Well, when I did get grown and was able to purchase me one, I did. I was in the Navy. I never forget. I was in the Navy, and so I made a little bit of money now, and I went back and I bought an 8mm film camera. It's a little sound camera. It's a little camera, and it used to hold film about that size. It used to hold about maybe 2 minutes of video on the film. So if you wanted to, you had to string them together. You had to splice them together
Really?
in order to get a longer video, you know,
Wow.
because it's only 2 minutes long. You
Right,
shoot
right.
them and then you got to stop. But anyway, I had a lot of fun with that, and so that was my hobby, and I still can't remember why I was so fascinated by that.
Hmm.
When I got married, pretty I dedicated my wife and I. We bought a 3-bedroom mobile home, right?
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was just she and I, and I dedicated one of the smallest room to my what I call my film room. You know,
Really?
I bought my had lights
Oh my
and
goodness.
cameras and my little splicing equipment and because you have to splice all these when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
shoot these things, you have to all like splice them together and then put titles on them. I had to bought a board with letters, you know,
Hmm.
and stick little create little titles and stuff like that. But that was my hobby. That was I was enjoying doing that. And the thing that really got to elevate it from that point was when we got married.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I guess I get a step back. That was before I actually got married, okay?
Right, right,
And
right.
because I had actually bought that mobile home before I got married, and I had
Hmm.
already dedicated. But when I did get married, okay, I had this crazy idea, Tony,
Hmm.
that I never heard anybody doing. I want the video, I want to tape, film, that wasn't called video, then was
Right.
film. I
Film.
want to film my own wedding.
Oh
And I
wow.
said, how am I going to, I couldn't film my own wedding, but
Right.
look, I told you, God take care of babies and foods. And
Yes, yes.
it was all in the cards, I think.
Hmm.
And I was lucky enough, my wife, Mary, had a
Hmm.
cousin that was invited to the wedding, and he was familiar. He was familiar with the film cameras.
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, would you film? He said, well, I love to film. I'm glad you told me. So we went out and bought a whole bunch of these little canisters, you
Hmm.
know, 2-minute thing canister, and
Right,
he
right.
had my 8mm film. He actually filmed my entire wedding on
Wow.
an 8mm soundless. There was no sound to it,
Hmm.
but it was filmed it. Then I took it and then I spliced it all together in the end. So we had about 15 to 20 of those little canisters. And by the time just like they did in Hollywood, you
Hmm.
sit there and splice it.
Wow.
And the scenes are like you do now. You cut the scenes out that you don't want to, just
Really?
cut them out with the scissors and then splice them together. But anyway, and then, you know, back then, the popular thing back then when people used to have 35mm cameras,
Right,
and they
right.
used to have slides, and people
Hmm.
go on their vacation and take their
Oh yeah,
pictures on
yeah, yeah,
slides.
yeah. Put the
Yeah,
slide.
and then
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
come over and visit, they force you to sit down and look at the
Right.
vacation on slide. Well,
Yeah, yeah. To see all them, yeah,
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 see that to
yeah,
make you watch their vacations,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, I did that with my video camera.
Oh
See, when people
man.
come over, and then I forced folks to sit down and look at my wedding on film, because that was one of my master productions.
Right,
Okay,
right,
but
right.
but you know, it had a good effect, because when people saw that,
Hmm.
they said, "Well, wait, well, can you film my wedding,
Right.
or can you film my event or my birthday party?" It kind of one thing
Wow.
kind of
Led into
led to
another.
something else.
Right. Led to another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I began to do that for, you know, as a courtesy for my
Hmm.
friends,
Hmm.
and then obviously folks start offering to pay you to do that.
Hmm.
That's okay. Then as technology advanced, we went from those film cameras to videotape
Right. Right.
back then.
Right.
And
Right.
okay, and then when we had those videotape machines, I had bought a video. You know, you had these cameras. You had one you had put on your
Yeah.
shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was big,
Yeah.
and then you had to have the recorder on the other
Yeah.
strap. You know,
Yeah.
so it was a two-piece. And then, but I ended up doing that, and actually, because I was doing it, and I got a demand of people wanted me to shoot their events and
Hmm.
stuff like that, the wedding, the birthday parties and stuff like that. I created me a video business. Okay,
Wow.
I called uh, I called it Vermonter's Video Business, Vernon Mary, and something. I just
Right.
strung
Right.
some words together,
Right. Right.
and then I created a video production business and ran together. Then later on, I merged my, because Jerry and Carol McIntosh as well
Hmm.
was doing video business. And well, why compete against each other?
Right.
Let's
Yeah. All y'all
merge together.
do it together.
Okay,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
merged. So we merged together. Jerry and I, James Thompson and me, we created what we call Prestige Video. And we was a video production company, and we did a lot of events and stuff in town.
Wow.
And so that's what got my motivation
Mm-hmm.
in terms of wanting to get into the video business. But at that point, television wasn't really in my mind at all. It wasn't even the consideration. But my other side hobby, Tony, you might be familiar with this, was I was into CB radio.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna ask me what CB radio got to do with it? You remember
days.
CB?
Yeah, I remember them days.
What you remember? You had
in fact, yeah, I remember. I was a member of the Rooster Channel Jumpers. Yeah,
me too.
In fact, my handle was Soul Train.
Yeah,
yeah.
Mine was sugar something. What was mine? Sugar boy, sugar. Something like that. I forgot what my handle was, but right. Yeah, I was into the CB radio thing. You know, just like anything else, one thing leads to another.
Correct.
So CB radio kind of led me into ham radio.
Oh wow.
Okay, and then that is really what led into the TV business. When I got into ham radio, I got my ham radio license. Okay. Then I learned because amateur radio, I learned that I didn't know this before. I learned that there was a ham TV service, an amateur ham TV service with it as well. Everybody knew about the ham radio service, but very few people knew about the TV service.
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
And so I thought that was interesting because I had a lot of videos at that time. We had shot a lot of weddings. We had shot a lot of events, and we had shot a lot of Black History programs, a lot of things. I said, well, my thinking was, okay, if I can get into the amateur ham TV service, then I'll get a chance. I can show my videos on amateur TV.
Right.
So I started doing my research for amateur TV service and ham radio service. And I came across some information about low-powered television, thinking it was the same thing as amateur, but it wasn't. But low-powered television was professional TV service, and I had never heard of that. It was a service created in the early 1980s by the FCC to make better efficiency of the frequencies. And then you ask me, what do that mean? Well, when you and I grew up, we had 3 channels, right?
Right.
You ever wonder why? You ever wonder why we had 3 channels, Tony?
Yeah, I actually wondered, but I never understood why with them only 3.
Number one, it was in the early days of the television process. We had 3, 5, 10, and burnt corn. We actually had 12.
Right.
We had 4 in burnt corn, but channel 12
was out of Montgomery.
Yeah, out of Montgomery.
Yeah.
And channel 3 was the same network.
Right.
It was ABC.
Right.
Network. So it was a duplication, but this is in 2 different cities.
Right.
Okay. And so the reason for that is because you got channel 3, you didn't have the way the FCC created the TV business is that these TV stations that had to be at least 200 miles apart, okay, to keep you from interfering with one another, okay?
Oh.
And so that's why in Pensacola, if you got a channel 3, you're not going to have a channel 2 or a channel 4 because they might interfere with one another.
Right.
So therefore we had a channel 5. Okay. Remember, we didn't have a channel 6.
Yeah.
We didn't have a channel 4. We didn't have a channel 6, but we had a channel 5. Okay.
All right.
And then the next channel would be channel 12. So, but anyway, what I discovered, and I only talk about channel 12 because my channel is on channel 12, and how I got to get
because that's what's important. How you got there.
Got to be on channel 12.
Right.
Okay. Well, way the current law is that those TV every TV station on every frequency has to be 200 miles apart to keep from interfering with another.
Right.
So in other words, therefore we didn't have a channel 12 in Pensacola.
Right.
The reason we didn't have a channel 12 in Pensacola is because having a full power television station in Pensacola would have interfered with other stations. For an example, for an example, we had a channel 12 in New Orleans, which is approximately 200 miles away, right?
Right.
We had a channel 12 in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, it was approximately 200 miles away. We had a channel 12 in Montgomery, Alabama, which is approximately 200 miles away. We had a channel 12 in Jacksonville, which is a little further, about 300 miles away. And then we had a channel 12 in Tampa. Okay. And so to put a channel 12 in Pensacola, because they had a 200 miles radius that they, it would have interfered with all of those channels. Okay. For a full power station, it would have interfered.
Right.
But now, but that was a hole, you know, because channel 12, you couldn't see channel 12 from Montgomery. You couldn't see channel 12 from Jackson. You couldn't see channel 12 from New Orleans. You couldn't see channel 12 from Jacksonville. You couldn't see channel 12 from Tampa.
Right.
Because the potential interference. Now, but there's still room in there for a much smaller station.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's what the FCC said. Okay, we're going to get better efficiency. So if you can carve a hole in there without interfering with these other stations,
we can do
with
it
with a lower powered station. Then you can do it, and that's what happened.
Wow.
With me. Okay, that's why I'm with channel 12. Okay, I know you asked me the questions. So, well, okay, how did you get to that point? I'm gonna go back to what I was saying earlier, and I know you're gonna be asking me some more questions. But how do we get to that point with when going back to researching amateur ham radio?
Right.
When I ran across this article about low power television, thinking it was one and the same, but and I called the guy. The article was 3 or 4 years old, but it had a number on there talking about low power television, and but it said it wasn't low power. It said it was professional TV that is affordable for small businesses. Okay, and so, but I called him, and lucky enough, the guy that wrote the article answered the phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were still there.
Wow.
And he explained to me. He said, this is not amateur TV. This is what we call low power television.
Right. The real deal.
The real deal. The real deal.
Wow.
In television. And so if you're interested in the real deal, and as a small business, if you can afford to do it. And then I thought, well, I'm crazy enough to think that I couldn't do it. I don't know why I didn't think that I couldn't do it, Tony. I don't know.
That's you, man. Yeah.
And so, and they had a lot of requirements. You had to, a lot of hoops you had to go through. And this was in 1988.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Time frame. Yeah, 1988 time frame.
Wow.
And he told me, I said, okay. He said, we can afford to do it. This is for small business. It's not, don't cost you as much as a great big TV station.
Right.
So you can start off small and just build your way up. And he said, but first of all, you got to find your frequency in your area that won't interfere with any other television station. And therefore, you're going to have to do what they call an engineering study. Okay. And so, and get what called a consultant. He told me about a guy by the name of Dr. Sinclair out in Denver, Colorado. And so he said you could do you a frequency study to see if any channels in Pensacola area is available.
It's available, yeah, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
And so we did the engineering study. I had to pay to do the engineering study, okay, and come back. See, yeah, the channel 12 is available in your area, okay. And so I said, okay, good. So he said, well, let's apply for it. He said, well, no, you can't apply for it yet. But he said the FCC won't let you apply until they have an open window.
So you got to have it open before you can apply for it.
Have an opening.
Wow, that is something.
Yeah, and this was in 1988 now.
Yeah.
And but by this time we were in the 1989, 90 time frame. By the time we had got finished with all the engineering study and stuff like that.
Right.
And so when I got everything ready to to apply. He said, well, you can't apply because you have to wait
Got
till
to
the
wait till the
FCC
over.
opening. And so they did not have an open until 1991.
Oh,
Okay?
wow.
But what he told me, he said, well, we'll do everything, and I want you to keep everything until we have an opening. And I'll let you know when the FCC open the window.
Right.
What they call a window. He said, open the window, and then you can apply for it. He said, but in the meantime, he said there's certain requirements. There are 3 basic requirements you have to meet in order to apply. And all this stuff has to be done when you apply. He said, number 1, you got to have your TV facility. Number 2, you got to have a transmitting. You have to have transmitting equipment.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and
so hold that point.
Okay.
So in other words, you got to have all of this stuff before you could even apply, before they even tell you that it's available, not knowing whether you're going to be accepted or not. So you had to do all this in advance on a gambler.
Right.
So that make you a good gambler then, right?
That make me a good gambler. I did that all on the gamble. And as a matter of fact, this stuff ain't cheap.
Right.
It's much cheaper than a full power station, but it's not cheap based on our standards. It's not cheap.
Now hold that point by the not cheap part. Okay. This is what I really wanted to ask, go back and ask this year, because now you married at this time, so you wasn't single.
Right.
All right. So you was working on a job, right?
Had a job.
And so, and then you had a wife that you had to consult with before you did everything.
Right.
So what did she think when you came and said, "Hey, Mary, honey, or whatever you call her, I want to open up a TV station"? What was her reaction to that?
Well, strangely enough, she was receptive.
Really?
Tony. She was really receptive to it. I have to give my wife credit. She the wind beneath my wings. Okay?
Right.
I have to give her credit for this, because even if she did not like the idea, she never displayed the fact that she didn't like the idea. But she's always believed in me. She always believed that anything that I want to do, I can do it, and she supported me with everything that I want to do. Okay, as crazy as that. Have you heard of an individual, not a corporation, not a company, not a partnership, but an individual trying to get a TV station? Okay,
I mean, this is just unheard of. So that lets you know that number 1, God had to be on your side.
Yeah.
This was your destiny to do that. And then you have to have the right partner with you, because if Mary had not agreed and not had been on your side, it wouldn't have been as smooth. I mean, probably wasn't smooth, but you wouldn't have been able to, to go through all this. Because remember, just like you said, number 1, you didn't have a business on the side running. You was working from your job. You still had to pay your house payment, all your other mortgages, and still do this all at the same time. So
absolutely.
Hats off to Mary. Mary, I applaud you for standing behind Brunham. I mean, it never could have happened without a good wife. Wow.
Yeah. And then we were lucky enough at that time, we both had good government jobs. Right. And at that time, we did not have. Well, yes, we did have children too. I thought we didn't have children, which we did, because my first child was born in 1984, and my second child born in 1991. So we did have children.
Wow.
So we took whatever that we had in our savings account. We took whatever we had. And let me tell you why we did that, whatever we had, because no banks would talk to you.
No.
Even though I had decent credit, but they wouldn't talk to you. They weren't going to finance anything like this, because it was something they couldn't understand. Number 1, it was unbuilt. I had to buy the equipment and all that kind of stuff. I had to get that financed some kind of way.
No experience.
And no experience.
Oh my goodness!
They looked at us. You crazy?
They're like, oh my goodness! But no, we are going to spend it. Yeah, wow.
So based on our savings and our credit and stuff like that, we was able to do it. But I had at that time, there's enough sense to start as small as I can do.
Right.
Because that's one of the things I learned when I researched this stuff, is that sometimes you gotta have to take advantage of the system and take advantage of the loopholes in the system in order to get where you want to go. And I was good with that because I was a government worker. And being a government worker, we're used to regulations and so forth. And so when I used to research the regulation and the rules and stuff like that, you'll be surprised what you learn when you read stuff. And so I was able to take advantage of some of the loopholes in the law, Tony. And I want to get back to where I was starting when I was saying that when back in the 88 and 89 time frame, when I found the frequency, okay, that was just the beginning of it. Then I had to go and buy the equipment and stuff like that, and have facilities and so forth. Well, when I researched the process, I was thinking that, well, I had to go out in town and get me a studio. I had to go out and get at least a tower out into the antenna farm with the big boards, and stuff like that. Well, when I read the instruction, it was kind of silent on where you could do that at. Okay, it didn't say you had to go out in a commercial. Because the only thing I had at that time, I had my house. Okay.
Wow.
And think about, and I had some apparatus, because at my house, because I had CB radio, ham radio. Guess what?
You had antennas and lights.
I had an antenna. Well, I didn't have a transmitter. I had about a transmitter, but I had a tower.
You had a tower.
I had a tower. I had a small tower. Because I said, okay, I got a tower. I got all the antenna. But how can I satisfy the studio requirement? I don't want to go out and lease a building out in town, not knowing
how this is going to come out.
But I'm going to get the license up, because the license is competitive. Once you put it in, you're competing with other people.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And so I had this bright idea, because it was silent on where these facilities should be. And so I had my house. I had a 2.5 car garage, Tony. And so I physically rebuilt my 2.5 car garage into a TV studio. I had a studio, part of a studio, another part is my control room, where I have the equipment. And I ordered actually, this is the truth now, I ordered a 10-watt television transmitter. Okay. 10 watt.
Wow.
And so what, 10 watts? What are you going to do with 10 watts? But at that time, our 10-watt professional television transmitter was probably
high end,
$15,000 to $20,000 for a 10-watt transmitter. Then I had to have a professional transmitting antenna. Okay? I had an antenna that transmit CB and ham, but I didn't have one to transmit TV. So, and I had to order all of that and finance all of that as well. But I was able to do it. And by the time I got my transmitter, at least I'm doing all of this. I'm doing all of this, Tony, on a chance, you're saying, because number one, at that time, the FCC hadn't opened a window.
Oh my goodness!
And there was no guarantee a window would ever be open. Well, we knew eventually they were going to open one, but there was no indication of when one would be open. But we wanted to have everything in place just in case it did. But we knew it was going to come, and just didn't know when. And so I financed the transmitter and the antenna, and then my thing is I had it, but I didn't implement it until the window did open. All right. Now, I had everything in place. Everything in place. And then lo and behold, the FCC opened the window to apply in early 1991. They opened the window. And then my consultant engineer called me and says, the window is open, you got everything ready, we got the engineering study, you got your antenna, you got your tower, you got your facilities
Oh my goodness.
and everything. But the problem was everything was at my house. I was the, I guess we're gonna call it the first home-based television station.
Yes.
Now that's that in itself created some issues that well, but I had it. So I didn't honestly I didn't make any formal announcement. I did
Right.
everything under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Then I applied for the license.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
At
then
home.
at home. Everything at home. Everything in the application, everything was legal, nothing was falsified.
Right. Right.
Everything
Right.
and I applied for it and not knowing I was gonna get it. And I guess in June, maybe that was in 1990 when they opened it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
opened the application. They opened it, and maybe in 1990. In 1991,
Right.
um, late 1991, they opened the window.
Mm-hmm.
Then in '92, I finally got the approval.
Really?
They gave me they approved the my application
Mm-hmm.
for Channel 12 in Pensacola. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's and they give you what you call a construction permit. Okay, we're gonna approve it. You got 18 months now to put all of this into motion, get it on the air. And
Okay.
they gave me 18 months to get it on the air.
Right.
Okay, now that's when my other issues, okay,
Oh my
start because I have to now I have to put up I have to put up my antenna. I have to um, start transmitting,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and do operation. It
Right.
almost just
Right.
like a
Right.
test. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Right.
You got
Right.
to
To make
test to
sure it's
make sure
gonna work. Yeah.
everything works,
Yes. Yes.
and then if everything works up to specs,
Right. Right.
then the FCC will then give you the license. Okay.
Right. Right.
Now, because I was at home, that created another set of problems.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
In your
because
neighborhood.
in the neighborhood, because folks didn't understand. Well, number one, the county says that I couldn't do that because I was in a residential neighborhood.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and but again, the law was silent on. It didn't say that I couldn't do it in the
Right. Right.
neighborhood.
Right. Right.
Okay, it didn't say you had to be out in the commercial.
Right.
So
Right.
I won on that point. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so and then again, I had to, because I already had a tower, but it wasn't. I had to increase the height of my tower. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that gave the neighbors some concern. They didn't want to have the tower in there.
Yes.
They said, "Well, you can't have the tower in our neighborhood." I said, "You already got it. What do you mean I can't have a tower?
You already been had it.
You
Yeah.
already got a tower
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. How come I can't?" And that was a fight with
Right.
the county telling me they sent me a notice one day out there saying, "Now you can't have a what they call a freestanding tower
Mm-hmm.
in your yard." So I said, "My God." And that was, they sent me a letter, certified letter saying you can't do this. Okay. And then I almost admitted defeat. Almost admitted defeat.
I bet you did.
Yeah, because I
Wow.
was thinking I was inspected money out did the house and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I can't go any further. And Tony, a good thing, and I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, and I had come to this point of almost defeat.
Right.
Did you read the regulation for yourself?
Right.
That
Instead of
they
taking
said?
somebody else's word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, no, I did not read the county regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because he said, you're good by reading regulations. So you
Right.
read it for yourself.
Right.
Just like you found a loophole in the other,
Right.
maybe there is a loophole in this.
Right.
And I thought about it. I said, well, you're right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to the county and got all the information regarding what you can do
Right.
for neighborhood, because you could have home businesses.
Right.
That
Right.
was okay.
Right.
Found out you can have home businesses. They never specified what type of home business you could
Right.
have.
Right.
Okay. When people see television, they just automatically
Just
thought
assume. Yeah.
commercial stuff,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
nothing but television just was a big television station.
Right.
You didn't
Right.
have anything like I had before.
Right. Right.
It was just new to everybody.
Right.
And so, but going back to the tower, it did say that you could not have a freestanding tower at that height, okay, in a residential area. Okay. I want you to think about what it says.
Freestanding.
says freestanding
Okay,
tower.
okay.
But my tower was not a freestanding tower. Technically, it wasn't a freestanding tower. There's a difference between the freestanding. That means it don't have any guide wires.
Yeah, the guide wires are tied down to keep it from moving.
Yeah.
Freestanding means it just stand up there on its own. It can sway.
Yeah.
But if you got guide wires, it ain't gonna move. Wow, that's a
mine had guide wires. You know another thing, Tony. I told you God take care of babies. What I didn't know when I bought my house. Okay, I bought the lot next to me because I didn't want any. Living in the country.
You're used to space.
You're so used to having people spaced out, not under you.
You can jump off your roof on somebody else's.
Yeah, so I bought the lots, next to me.
Right.
Okay, so and that was not knowing this, Tony, not knowing this, but that was a good move on my part.
Right.
Because that gave me the room,
the space you need,
the space that I need to have the guide wires on my tower. So everything worked out fine. They made me go through more than extra hoops that I unnecessarily hoops but they couldn't stop me. I had county commissioners come out there. I had all kinds of folks, but they found out that they couldn't legally stop me from doing what I was doing.
Right.
And I became the first home-based television business.
Wow.
So, and like I said, I started off with a 10-watt transmitter, one antenna.
Wow.
And my garage built out as a studio. The only thing that the county told me that I couldn't put signs out there in my yard.
Yeah,
Couldn't put a sign out there. People could come to my studio and I can do, like interviews like you and I are doing and everything like that. But I couldn't have a big sign at the scene.
Advertising.
Yeah, advertising. And so, but that was a starting point, and that's what I wanted to do. That was the important thing is I had to do all of that to get the license, Tony.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping that your signal is not. I'm to get the license. Once I got the license, Tony, then I kind of built up from that. Okay. I went at that time I got the license in 1992, and so that gave me some time now that from getting the license, then I actually start seeking out in a commercial area.
Wow.
At that time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to see if I can find a commercial place. It comes with other challenges too, because once I got licensed, being a low-powered television station, nobody knew much about low-powered TV. They didn't. Station.
I'm quite sure that played a big part. Yeah. Nobody heard of African American in Pensacola gonna want to start a TV station. Yeah. Wow.
One of the motivations too, Tony, that reason I once I found out about it, I could because there was no black folks on TV locally, local black folks on TV in the area. Okay. And so that what gave me the motivation. I said, well, okay, at least we can have an opportunity for black folks to get on TV. And plus then I have a legitimate way of showing my videos.
Right. Community based.
Community station.
Yeah, community station. Bring up stuff about what's going on in the because if you think about that, if you hadn't done that, a lot of people would have never been on television because the price, number one, was so outrageous and costly until they would have not been able to do that. Yes. Yes.
So that was the beginning of the TV, and that's how I got to this point of getting my license. But that is when really after I got my license, and that is when everything started. After that, being licensed, being officially licensed, and conducting business, home business, that was a challenge in itself. To being taken serious. A couple of things, a couple of events happened. This is in 1992, so I broadcast from home from 1992 to 1994.
Right.
And let me tell you what the events that occurred during that point. to be considered, be taken seriously. Number one, because number one, nobody ever heard of low power television.
Right, right.
And so, in order for you to be seen on television back in that time,
Right,
you had to be on cable.
right.
You know, a lot of folks, not many people had antennas. I was on,
Right,
I was
right.
on a regular antenna, so I wanted to be put on the cable system. That was certainly is a challenge. Then the other challenge, and I'm going to talk about each one of them as I go along. The other challenge was getting listed into the newspaper, getting your listing
Oh,
into the
yeah,
newspaper.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
a challenge. And the third challenge we had of being taken seriously as a viable business. Okay. All right. Let me go back to the first major challenge that we had. Not because back in 1992 time frames, most 80% of the folks in the city had cable. Okay. And back then, you know, you only had one cable company.
Right,
Back
right.
then, it was Cox Cable Company. At that time, they had the franchise here in Pensacola, and the law that regulates who's on cable with the full power station, Tony, full power stations. The law required the cable companies to carry the full power station. And they didn't. There was silent on low power stations. Okay, so the cable companies took advantage of that loophole. Okay, so they wouldn't put low power television station on because the law didn't say that they had to put them on. They specifically said they had to put full power station on.
Gotcha.
And can I explain to you
Yes,
why?
explain that to us.
Okay, full power stations. Well, let me tell you how cable came about in the very beginning. Okay, and remember we talked about before cable, we had nothing but TVs and antennas.
Right. The 3 channels. Yes.
Yeah, the 3 channels, and you remember I know you can relate to. Sometimes you get the channels in, and
sometimes you couldn't.
Sometimes you couldn't.
Yeah,
It's snowy channels, and
yes.
put you can put aluminum foil on the rabbit ear, and I'll go out there and somebody hold the TV. You remember that? And
yeah, I remember doing all that.
So the picture was not always perfect.
Right,
okay?
right.
Well, what the cable companies figured out was, well, if they stick a tower high enough up in the air, you know, television stations free TV. It's free.
Right,
you don't have to pay for it because it's in the airways. Okay?
Right.
When cable companies took advantage of that, they put a tower up, right? And a big antenna. The higher up you get, the more stations you can get, them clear the station you can get because you can get. And so what they figured out, they put a big antenna up in the sky, brought it down, and get all the signals from the TV station and reprocess it through their system. And they strung wires are all over town so that you can have a good picture all the time. That's why people converted their antennas, went off antennas, started looking at cable because there's a consistent picture. You don't see no snowy. You didn't have no snowy picture or anything like that. So a lot of folks had that. And so by the cable companies doing that, you know, they was making money for a lot of money off the backs of the broadcasters. So the broadcast went to Congress and said, no, they need to pay us or put us on cable. We got to have some revenues from that. And so what Congress did is say, you got 2 options. You either pay them for the signal or you carry them for free. Okay. And so that's for the full power station. So, but nobody mentioned the low power station.
Right.
And so the cable company said, okay, we'll do a full power station, but they ain't gonna require us to take low power stations. So we're not going to carry a low power station for free. Okay, the only way we can carry you, we'll rent you a channel, release your channel, and so forth. Okay. And what that's what the law said, and you have to obligate to lease TV. Anybody could lease a channel. That's how Blab came about. You don't have to be a TV station.
Right.
To lease a channel on cable. See, Blab TV is not a television station. It's the lease station. Okay. And that's how they came about. They leased the channel on the cable system, and they became virtually a TV station without having a license from the FCC. Okay, it's just like even today, the remnants of today. A lot of people have internet TVs. You
Right,
want to have a
right, right,
license,
right.
and you have to have a license for FCC to have internet TV. Same thing. If you lease a channel from the cable system back then you can have your own channel or your own TV station. So, but at any rate, that was one of the major challenges that we had, because when we went out, I had two difficult things to do when I went out to try to sell advertising, because how we make money with because the TV is free, how you make money on it, you go out and you sell advertising.
Advertising,
Right.
correct.
That's
correct,
where you have advertising.
correct,
That's
correct.
how you make your money from it. Okay. Well, the challenge we had is that when we go out and, number one, nobody ever heard of low power television station before.
Right.
Number two, I'm black.
Yeah.
And number three, I wasn't on cable.
You went on cable.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was kind of a difficult time to sell the
Oh my
the
goodness.
TV
Wow.
to sell it. So we had to we had to lease a channel on there, and I won't tell you about that. But before I tell you about that, how I programmed you, I guess your question would be then, what you got a channel, what you put on, how you program it.
Right, right, right.
Remember that I told you my motivation was to get black folks.
Yeah, get the churches
local,
and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, yes,
so I
yes.
had local churches and stuff, local churches and local businesses, and even you had a show. Remember?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yes, I
did.
did. Yeah, yeah.
But that was a couple of years later. But when we went out to the commercial, you had a show. But we had churches on a long time. We played music videos, and we put as many churches. All this was for free. I wasn't charging anybody.
Oh my God!
And so I could have
something
a lineup.
Oh yeah, you had. You know what? That makes sense. If you got a station, you got to have something to play on it. You can't just put dead air out there. So you had to start off giving it for free.
Yeah.
Because number one, nobody didn't know about you. So you had to. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I gave the churches free time. I gave like I said, other programming stuff, video stuff that I had.
Right.
Local organization, like interviews like we did, like we're doing here today.
Pensacola wants to know and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff. All that was free program, so I can have a lineup to have on there.
Right.
Now, when I did all of that, then folks have to know about you.
Right.
And number one, have to know about you, and then two challenges. So you got to be listed in the newspaper, and then you have to be on. You need to be on cable.
Right.
And so the least challenge I thought I would have, Tony, was getting my TV station listed in the newspaper. I thought just call up, you got a TV station listed. That was a fight to get the Pensacola News Journal to get my station listed into the News Journal. It took about a year, but we finally got our station listed in the News Journal and our programming, our programming guide and all that kind of stuff listed in there. Okay. And then the other challenge was once we got it listed in there, okay, now we got the major challenge. Who looking at TV? Most folks got cable. When I go out and try to sell advertising, the folks are, you on cable?
Right.
No, I'm not on cable. And we're not interested.
Right.
But everybody's on cable. Everybody's on cable. So cable company, I went to the cable company and asked them to add our channel. I thought, in my naiveness, I thought, being naive, well, surely they would want a station that maybe catered to the African American community and so forth. And I was wrong.
Sadly mistaken.
I was sadly mistaken about that.
Wow.
They didn't want us on at any cost.
Wow.
Because they wouldn't put us on voluntarily, and they wasn't even willing to agree to lease your channel. Lease of a channel. Oh my goodness. I had to go to the county commission, since the county commission and the city owned the franchise to the cable company, and they was forced to lease us a channel. Wow. Okay. And they did. They didn't like it, but they ended up leasing us a channel, Tony. And I'm not ashamed to say that at that time, you didn't know it. I knew television was expensive, but at that time, they leased us a channel. We was paying $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month to lease a channel for 80,000 subscribers on Cox Cable System. $10,000 a month. Wow. I thought that was the going rate. Okay. But at least when I was able to get on the cable system, then I was able to sell advertising.
Right,
okay?
right, right.
Then I
right.
was able to charge the churches, and I was able
Right,
to
right.
and I was able to put people on. They actually can see me. So that really legitimized WBQP once we got our listing into the newspapers, and once we got on cable, even though we was paying for cable, that got us legitimately into the business.
Right.
Okay. Now I took everything step by step. Now that I'm being taken seriously. I'm on cable. I'm on an listing. Now it's time to move from my home.
Yeah, that was
to,
actually right.
to the business district. And
Wow, wow.
And that's how I started to make that move. And I went out and started looking for a commercial. Well, first of all, then when I went out and looked for that, then I upgrade my equipment. Remember, I started off with one antenna at home,
right.
one antenna at home, and a 10-watt transmitter. We was only getting out about I guess 7 or 8 miles or something like that. We didn't cover the whole city with that 10-watt transmitter.
Right.
Okay. And so, but still a lot of folks had antenna. We still had a lot of folks. Let me tell you a story about this before we get to when I first moved out there.
Right. Okay.
When I told you I putting the churches on for free.
Right.
And with the understanding that, once I get on cable,
right.
and so forth, since I had that extra expense, I wanted them to start at least kicking in some money to help offset my costs, because I had rent, I had towel fees, I had electricity, all that kind of stuff. And Tony, I remember when this one specific church story that I had was the very first one I put on, and I played it rapidly, and they decided that, well, they're going to be on TV. I wasn't good enough for them.
Oh my goodness!
To pay. As long as I was
doing
paying
it for free,
it was good, but I wasn't good enough to pay. And what they did was they went to another television station, paid them to be on, okay?
Wow!
And wouldn't pay me to be on, because they saying, well, we want to. I don't know what the reason of better coverage or something like that, but we was on cable. But anyway, they paid them, and so I actually took them off of my channel. I got upset and I took them off, Tony. But I got a call one day from this nursing home, and the lady said, why aren't you showing this certain church? I'm not going to call the church name.
Right.
I said I had to take them off because,
right.
They didn't want to do business with us. And she said, we wish you hadn't done that, because we went out and we made some purchases, and we're not the only ones in the nursing home. We went out and bought extra TV sets for our residents, and because she said, but that was the first time that particularly our black residents was able to see black
programming,
black churches.
Wow.
And now they're not able to see it. And so, and I felt bad about that. And
even though that wasn't your fault.
Wasn't my fault.
It ain't your fault.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But I put that church back on because I wanted that population of those elderly people that couldn't get to church.
Right.
And just to have church, a black church.
Right.
That come to them instead of them coming to them. So I actually put that church back on.
Oh goodness.
And then I started putting other churches on as well. But that's the story I want to tell you. That one of the challenges that we had, Tony, is not only we had challenged that white businesses didn't want to do business with us because we were black.
And now you got your own don't want to do business.
Yeah, we had black people that
as long as it was free, they was willing to do it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So it has been many ups and downs and many challenges.
Oh my goodness, yeah,
that we went through on both sides. One of the and I tell this story a lot. One of the and I wish I had listened to him now, but maybe not. But I want to tell you that I had a white friend of mine when he first found out that I had a television station. He took me to lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and so he heard about I had a black TV channel. Okay,
Right,
that's what
right.
sticks in people's minds.
Right,
Okay,
right.
when he says black, like WBOP used to
Right,
call
right,
themselves
right,
the
right.
black dot on the dial.
Right.
But when people get this mind frame, and then he took me to lunch and said, "What, Vernon?" He said, "I don't understand. Why did you just want to have a black TV station and the population is only 12% blacks here. So why do you want to get it? And you got the rest of them white. Why don't you just get it?" I said, "Well, here's the deal." I said, just like black people watch these white-owned stations,
Right, right.
okay, I'm assuming that whites would look at black-owned
Right,
stations.
right, right.
He said, "Well, I tell you what, Vernon, if it were me," he said, what you," and I thought he was hating on me, Tony. He said, "What you should do is just hire your white manager."
Right, to
Okay,
run it.
how your white manager run it, you
Mm-hmm.
stay in the background and collect the checks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which was great advice, but I thought he was the man trying to keep me down. He didn't want to put me down.
You
But I
thought
want,
that if people saw that it was a black man in Pensacola, somebody they know, open up a TV station, that the floodgates they'd just be running from all angles to support the minority business.
you would think
Wow.
that,
You would think that would have happened.
but they ran the other way, Tony.
Oh my goodness.
They ran the other way. But that was a shock in my life to find out that. So, but the bottom line is that I did have a core of white people that support the station,
Mm-hmm.
and a core of black people that support the station. Okay,
Right.
The masses didn't. It's just like that bell curve. Okay?
Right, right,
I
right,
had
right.
on this end, I had let's say 10% of white people that
Right.
supported, and on the other end, I got a 10% of black people that was supporting it,
Right.
and then in the middle, there's just a very few in the middle, but
yeah.
most of them didn't support it.
Right,
That
right.
was in the middle,
Mhm.
but because I had these fringes on, that was enough to keep the
To keep
channel
it
going.
going, yeah.
And interesting enough, Tony, that the TV station actually, I never really made any real profit from the TV station, but it paid for itself.
Right.
Even when we talked about I was paying
The high cost,
$10,000 a month,
Right.
I was able to do that,
Right.
hire staff, and do everything, and still make the
Wow.
and to make it with that. Okay.
Wow.
And so that tell you the power of the television station and how much money it could make.
Yes.
But I had the marginal stuff and still made it work. Okay.
Wow.
Still made it, but the reason I think I made it work because Mary and I, we didn't take a salary from the station.
Right,
we had,
right.
and I had the sense enough to keep my day job.
So you didn't,
I kept my day job.
So you didn't quit the day job and sit in the office all day.
I had a great career at the Navy Air Station, and I wasn't going to quit it because it was a great job, and I wanted the retirement. So, and my wife too. So we kept that and ran the station at the same time.
Right.
So, but anyway, that was between 1992 and 1994. And so in 94, then I went out.
Wow.
In the commercial area.
So in other words, all this happened when you was at home.
Yeah.
And you were doing all this from home.
Yeah.
So now it's time, as they said, to leave the nest, and now I tell us about the challenges, because all the equipment that you had at home, were you able to move that equipment over, or you had to reinvest in a totally different style of equipment once you went out?
I had to reinvest on that. It's almost like starting all over. It almost had to do it simultaneously. I couldn't just go off the air, and move stuff. So what I had to do when I moved from my residential home-based TV, if you will, then I had to go out now in the commercial world and duplicate what I had, but better and bigger. At home, I was limited to the height of my antenna. I couldn't go more than 200 feet. I was limited to the size of the transmitter I had, limited into the size of my little studio I had, and stuff like that. So when I went out into commercial area, now I had to find a building, I had to find another tower, and then I had to buy more
Oh
TV
my goodness.
transmitting equipment, so it got to be a little more expensive. But I went out and found, eventually I went out and found my first station I found was on R Street.
In fact, we got a picture right there of the first station on R Street. Wow.
Yeah.
That's simply amazing. You had your WBQP. Now, I'm looking at that van there. So when you moved over there, did you already have that van, or did you get that van?
That van came later, much later.
Oh my goodness.
That's a much later picture on that. When we moved in that building, that was a vacant building with nothing there but a building. It used to be, and like I say, you know, God take care of everything for you. Everything is kind of destined for you.
Right.
Tony, that building was vacant, and there used to be an old what they used to repair Motorola radios.
Really?
And it had a transmitting tower to it.
Oh wow!
Where they used to transmit taxi cabs and stuff like that. Had a 400-foot tower right there at the building.
Oh really?
So that was a good portion I had. I had the tower there and the building and everything. But at that time, I couldn't afford what he wanted for the tower in the building. Okay?
Right.
Since you go back to the picture of the building, you see the building is actually a two-story
building. That's a pretty big
two-story building.
Yeah.
So what I first started off with, Tony, is that I leased the tower. Okay.
Yeah, I see the tower in the back there. Yeah.
In the tower. Well, that's actually, it had a much bigger tower than that. I'll tell you that story too, but that's a different tower there.
Oh, okay.
But we had a much bigger tower there.
Right.
Before then. And so I leased that tower, and but you have to have equipment inside that building. So what he decided to do, he said, I tell you what, since you can't afford the building and the tower, I'm gonna let you have the upstairs part. I lease you the upstairs part for this amount of money.
Right.
And then the tower. And so I could afford to do that. So what I did, I leased the tower and the top part of that building. Okay. And so and that was my first, and ironically, I don't know what it was before. It might have been a radio station there, I don't know, but it was already built out basically from what I needed. You know,
really,
it had upstairs. I had a little studio, about the size of the one that I had at home. I had it was built that I had a control room.
Really,
and I had an equipment room. And it was built so that, and we got some pictures of it somewhere. It's built so it had pane glasses in it. I can see from the control room. I can see into the studio.
Yeah,
I can see into the equipment room.
Yeah.
Now I can see in. Then we had a little waiting room. Okay.
Wow.
And so it was perfect.
It was like it was built.
It was built
for you in advance. Wow. In
how,
other words, you know what, Vern? You just said, see, I believe in nothing don't happen by chance. There's no coincidence. So God already knew that in the future what you were going to do.
Tony, you're absolutely right. That was the divine intervention. It had to be in God's hand, because I wasn't even looking at that building.
Right.
That building I didn't even know about that building at all. I was looking. I had made this deal with the county and trying to get a building and a tower with the county, and because of all the red tapes, and was taking 8 or 9 months, and then I met the guy one day, and he said, you know what? He said, you know, Vernon, he said, I know you want this tower here, but there's so much red tape involved. He said, but if you want to get on, he said, but that was a tower and a building right across over there that you might want to look at.
Wow.
And I didn't even know about this. I didn't know about this building. And so I went over there, and the building was vacant. There was a tower there.
And I'm looking at those satellite. Were the satellites there?
No, satellite wasn't there yet.
Oh, so
I put all those satellites there.
Oh my goodness!
As well as that truck and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
That came later, because I had to have those satellites.
Right.
But I want to get back to the point about the divine intervention about
that's important.
Getting the building. So I got the building. And going back to your point about the satellite, now I was able to do more professional business, because now I had a professional office. I had
Right.
a real studio, a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
station now.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
real
I had
station.
a real
They could
station
actually
now.
pull up now and see where WBQP is located at.
Exactly right.
Wow, wow,
Now
wow.
now what happened with that now is that because I had a real big 400-foot tower,
Right.
and then I was able to I got different antenna. I had to put more antennas on that tower,
Right.
and I got a bigger transmitter
Mm-hmm.
this time. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
actually I ended up with a 100. If you remember, I had a 10 watt at the house.
Right, right, right.
Then I ended up with I had to upgrade to 100 watt, and that's all. And as a matter of fact, that's all the FCC allowed at that time.
Right, right, right.
Then they let us went to a 100 watt transmitter,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I put that 100 watt transmitter with 400, they said height is everything. And when I put that antenna on that tower, on that 400-foot tower,
Mm-hmm.
then I was reaching all over
Oh
the
yes.
city
Oh
and
yeah.
over and almost to Milton then, okay?
Right, right.
And so on the air, okay?
Right, right.
But I still had to be on cable to,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of folks had
Had
the
cable, didn't
cable
have
channel,
antennas,
right?
yes.
Yeah, and we was on we started off on channel 50
Mm-hmm.
in the cable, and then they moved us from channel 50 to channel 57,
Mm-hmm.
keep pushing it down.
Right.
Uh, even, remember I told you we was forced to get them to lease us a tower, and
Right, right,
they
right.
leased us one for $10,000 a month.
Right.
Then they put us, at that time, your channels ran from channel 2 through 60, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, instead of putting us, all the other TV stations, 3, 5, 10, all of them was up on the first tier.
Right,
When
right.
people come on TV, you go to the first tier. They had us on channel 50
Yeah, you know
on the
what? I never
last.
thought about
Yeah.
that. So when you cut the TV on, you start off with 3, 5, 10. Now to get to 50, we got to scroll through WSRNE and everybody else to get you way upstairs up there.
Way at the end,
Wow,
I'm way
wow.
at the total goal. And it made matters worse. And then they moved us even further up channel. And they only had 60 channels.
Right,
Then
now
they
you
moved
at
us from
57.
they moved us
You're
from
just
channel
about
50.
at the last level.
Yeah, at the last level, channel
Oh my
57. Because
God.
people scrolling through the channel, they gonna see first because you
Right,
started
right,
too,
right.
And unlike it was today, people had this idea, they thought 3, 5, 10, 15,
Right,
20,
right.
and then we on 50 and 57. So that was a challenge itself, but that's okay. But I found out there's people going to watch you. They'll find you
They will find you no matter where you at.
wherever
Yeah,
you are.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was beginning to work for us, Tony, and then we ran into um, a financial issue
Right,
about, that $10,000 a month. It worked for a while, and we did it, but then we kind of got behind on it,
right,
Tony.
right.
And that's the only thing that called I don't think I can't hold the cable company responsible for this, because after this manager left, it was Cox Cable was at
Mm-hmm.
because it was the only one in only one here, the only one in the franchise. It wasn't Cox itself. It was the manager,
Right, right,
that was causing all the problem. Because after he retired and left, then all our problems went away
right,
with the
right.
cable company. Okay, and so after he put us on 57, and then got behind on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that's the only thing he needed. Then he put us off. If anybody remember, he put us off on cable,
Right.
because took us off on cable. You know, and like I said, behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good thing that he took us off,
Right.
because we found out, as a result of being thrown off the cable system, trying to
Mm-hmm.
get back on,
Right.
that he was charging us 80% more
Oh my
than he
God.
was charging everybody else.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
and really, and how, and you talk about God and the divine intervention, and how we found that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember I was talking about Blab.
Right, right.
Then because when we got thrown off the cable system, it was a big deal,
Right,
because
right.
it made
Oh
newspapers
yeah, yeah.
and
Everybody. Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
knew that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So and so the manager, of the guy that with Blab, he called me down there, And he said, Vernon, I see that, and I didn't really know him at the time. The first time I was meeting, he said, I see that you have issues and so forth, and because they was on cable as well.
Right.
And when it was revealed with these cable companies, what they have, what they call these exclusive contracts, you don't supposed to discuss you
Right. Yeah.
with nobody else. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the guy called me down at Blab and said, look, I know we don't supposed to contract, and I'm not going to discuss my contract, what we paid with the cable company. And but he put it down in front of me. He laid it in front of me, said, I can't discuss it. And he said, but I got to go to the restroom. Okay. And put it in front of me. And I found out why they was only paying $4,000 a month. I'm paying $10,000
Oh,
a month.
my Lord. Wow.
And then when I learned about that, and then we had to file a case with the FCC. And then we found out they was charging other folks $2,000 a month.
Oh my goodness.
And so forth. Man, I'm paying 10. Okay. But obviously, when we went through all that process, all of that debt that they say I owed them, all that went away.
Go away.
If it
didn't go away, that some lawsuits going to be filed.
Yeah. So all that went away. That guy retired. Okay. So he finally retired. Once he retired, when the new manager came in, then everything with the cable company went well. Okay? We made money. We still had to pay. We ended up paying the same thing Black was paying, which was fine. And we made money. We was able to hire students and folks. But go ahead and ask your question.
I was finna say it brought me back to a point that when you said that, and the scripture popped in my mind. It says, all things work together for the good of those that love God, for those that are calling according to his purpose. What that simply means, that everything gonna work out for your good. It might not feel good, it might not look good, and it might not even be good, but it's going to work out for your good. I heard a preacher say one time, a goat could eat green grass or tin can, it don't matter. It all gonna work out for its good. And so this happened. Now think about it. If you had not got behind because of the high cost, you would have kept paying it, and you never would have knew it. You never. I mean, just think about it. You never would have knew it. But that had to happen first. When that happened, then that set forth a change of reaction, and it led to you knowing what was going on. Oh my, ain't that something?
It is something. It is absolutely something.
Wow. That is amazing.
You know, God had to be in the plan for it, for it to work. And you know, just for an individual, it was kind of unheard of for
amazing.
And more than that, Tony, there was, and even to this day, there's probably less than 10 stations, broadcast TV station licensed by the FCC that's minority owned.
Wow.
Okay? Probably less than 10. Wow. So we are still the very few Black people in this country that own a broadcast license. Okay. And so even back then, but like you say, everything worked. You know, the adversities that we went through, you know, everything worked out fine. And in fact, it worked out really well because in 1995, okay, we became. You remember I was talking about we had our own local shows, and that was the first time now that you came on. You had a show on.
Yes.
And other folks had shows on local. We created Pensacola Wants to Know show. We created a lot of different shows, as a result of that, community shows. And then Tony, they gave a couple of things happen. It gave Black folks in this town for the first time an opportunity they can afford to be on television. They can have their own show, or if they had the businesses, and not only for Black business, but either other small businesses that couldn't afford the big stations. They could afford
even
us.
Some of the white businesses couldn't afford to be on the big station. Yeah, they could come and patronize.
That's what they did. And they bought advertising with us. Even some of those businesses, those small Blab is kind of the small business TV station, but even some of those small businesses could even afford Blab.
Right, right,
and so,
right,
but
right,
they could
right.
afford us,
Right,
and that's what
right,
helped
right,
us
right.
with in our business. So we was able to for the first time provide small businesses an opportunity to advertise at a
Mm-hmm.
very reasonable rate. Not only that, we were able to hire people
Mm-hmm.
and train them
Right,
to do things that what other TV stations wouldn't even look at them
right.
because they didn't have the experience at all. And so we hired individuals off the street with no experience,
Mm-hmm.
had students and so forth. And then they worked there long enough that they got enough experience. Then they can go to the other TV stations
Right,
for an
right,
entry-level job
right,
or
right.
either an intern with those other TV stations. So we was kind of the training ground
Right, right.
for minorities that otherwise wouldn't have had an opportunity to
Wow.
get into anybody else's TV station. So we gave them that opportunity, and then they went on and they went on to other stations. As they went on, then we had new people behind them and so forth.
Right,
So
right.
so that was the first time that in this area,
That
folks,
something like that
yeah,
happened.
there's something
That
like that
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
So
Wow,
I'm very
wow.
proud of that fact that we were able to rotate people in there. Tony, I want to tell you when I got a thing on my website, and we got a bee, a
Mm-hmm.
bumblebee, and I want to get back to you part you talking about the satellite and the truck, but
Mm-hmm.
I chose the bumblebee
Mm-hmm.
as my mascot.
Wow.
Okay. And the reason I chose the bumblebee as my mascot is because I think we the bumblebee represent our plight in broadcasting.
Yes.
Now, I don't know, you know what they say about the bumblebee. The expert says that a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly.
Oh, because of his body is so
Yeah,
big and his
big.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because of his size of his body compared to the
His
wing,
wings,
his
yes,
wings and
yes.
the wingspan and so
Yes, and
forth.
I thought about that.
And so experts saying aerodynamically, he should be able to fly.
Right.
But guess what?
What?
He flies.
Right. He showed
Okay.
him.
And not only does he fly, Tony, he does an important job for nature.
Yes, he
Okay.
does. Yes, he
All
does.
right. He might not fly like a 747. He might not fly like it float like a
Butterfly.
butterfly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but he flies.
Yeah.
Okay. He goes from point to point, and
Pollination. Yeah.
he does a very important job for
Yes.
nature.
Yes.
It's the same thing that I see also. We didn't have any experience,
Right. Right.
no broadcasting experience,
Right.
no commercial experience,
Right.
no engineering experience.
Right.
We had none of that. We had to learn that
Wow.
as we went along, Tony.
Yeah. Oh my
But
goodness.
yet, despite all of that,
Mm-hmm.
we contributed to the community. We
Yes.
contributed important thing to our community, and I'm real proud of that we were able to do that. And so that's why I chose the bee as my mascot, because
Wow.
what the bee represent in nature, we represent in broadcasting.
You know, I never thought about that because the odds, as you talk, and as I have learned stuff that I did not know about your beginning and the struggle, some of the struggle that you went through, the odds was total against you.
Absolutely.
The odd of you succeeding and being here 32 years later, the odd is 0 to 10 that you should be existing.
Right.
The odds that you should have been gone a long time ago. Wow. But see,
Yeah.
that tell you when God is on your side, and if He got a hand in your life, it don't matter what nobody else do or what nobody else say. They can't stop you if God is with you. That's amazing.
Yeah. It
That's
had to
simply
it had to be divine intervention, Tony, because otherwise, I don't know how I did it, because
you couldn't have made it.
I couldn't have made it
Ain't
with
no
that.
way in
Yeah,
the world
he
you could have
guided me
made it.
through not knowing anything about anything.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
I mean, totally. You know, I'm educated and I went to college, but I have no broadcasting experience. My
Not for broadcasting.
not
Yeah,
for
yeah.
broadcasting.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
of mine's in human resources.
Right,
I
right.
got degrees in management and
Right,
stuff like
right,
that.
right, right.
But that kind of helped in operating the business.
Well, the
But it
management
wasn't.
part, but
Yeah, the
the
management part of it,
engineering is
but
totally different.
engineering
Yeah.
and the sales and there's so many facets to the television business that we did not have. And
Knowing what right equipment to buy.
right, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing. That's
it
amazing.
turned out to be a really interesting experience, and we was able to do it. I'm sometimes I look back on it
Mm-hmm.
and I wondered how did I do that, but I did do it.
Right.
And the diversities didn't stop there. You always gotta have diversity. But the
Right,
one
right.
thing I learned about anything, okay,
Mm-hmm.
even if you, I watch people boxing in the ring. You knock
Right.
somebody down, what they gonna do? They
They
need
go,
to get back
they need
up.
to get back
And they need to
up.
get
Yeah.
back up, and
Yeah.
when they get back up, sometimes they can win the fight. But you
Right,
get
right,
knocked
right,
down, you stay
right.
down there,
You can't get back up.
get back up. You
Right.
But I refuse to stay down. I got knocked down many times,
Wow.
but I refuse to stay down. But by this time that I finally got into the real commercial broadcast TV business, being on cable, had salespeople. I hired salespeople to go out and sell, and
Mm-hmm.
had an office and all that other kind of stuff. And then by this time, I was able to. Now I was able to make enough money now to
Right.
rent the whole building.
Right,
Now
the whole
go back to
building.
that building. Now I got upstairs and
Yes.
downstairs. Now,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
I want you to notice. I want
Yes.
you to notice this building here. Okay, when I those 3 windows up there. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's where I started at. Now downstairs in this building, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
It had a conference room. It
Really?
had a room that had everything. Everything was so built perfect for what I needed. It was just building. I don't know, but it was just built exactly. I had an office there.
Mm-hmm.
By that one of those used to be my main office.
Yeah, I remember that.
In
To the right there.
And you come
Yeah.
into the front door.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reception area.
Right,
You
right.
had a desk there, and then on to the right, I had my sales staff right
Yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the back of the building, right back of it, I had a big old closet where you can show your tapes and your equipment and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
And then past that, I had another reception room, okay, in
Wow.
the reception room,
Mm-hmm.
and it had another room that I made out of a control room,
Right, right.
and then they had a big open garage, a two bay garage, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that I built out into a television studio.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
I built
Wow.
out into the studio,
Wow.
and so it was perfect for
Wow.
what I
And
needed.
you're just looking at the
Mhm.
front of that building, looking
Mhm.
at WBQP on the front of the building,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing how that looked. Wow, that's
Yeah,
just simply
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Now we got a real TV station. We have a building. We got a studio.
Wow,
We got a sales staff. We
wow.
have going back to we had satellites. So all those satellites when we was
Yes,
actually getting programming from the satellites to air over the channel.
that's what I want to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
So we see all those satellites there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So all them satellites is bringing in feeds
Right.
from different sources for you can have something to cover. You wasn't a cutoff at midnight station, a
Right.
cutoff at 8 o'clock at night. You ran 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Right.
And that takes a lot of programming.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
before when I was at home, Tony, I had a solid, I take care of babies and food again. In 1984,
Mm-hmm.
I bought a satellite dish, big old satellite. You know when satellite was popular, I bought a satellite dish.
Right.
And that was another thing I almost forgotten about. That was another thing that I was able to run it from my home 24/7 because I used my home satellite dish to get programming from the satellites.
Right.
And
Wow. Wow.
so when but I only had one dish and I could only use one source
Right.
that I had then.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got out into the real world,
Mm-hmm.
then I had many sources that I had to use. We only had one channel. I want to tell you the difference between analog and digital in just a little bit. But this was analog TV
Mm-hmm.
where you only got one channel.
Right.
And we call you only have one channel, but you had more sources of you had more sources of information to show. You know,
Right. Correct.
this daytime I showed this. This daytime I showed that.
Mm-hmm.
This daytime I showed videotape. This day part I showed another satellite
Right. Right.
company. So I had 3 or 4 different what you call different
Fees.
no not fees but stations that I get from satellite. What you call them? Sources I got from satellite networks.
Oh, never. Okay.
Networks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never.
I had
Yeah.
different networks. Okay,
Right. Right. Right.
because what I did was the reason I had so many satellite dishes
Mm-hmm.
because I cherry picked from those networks.
Right.
Okay,
Right. Right. Right.
so this day part I would show AIN. This
Oh.
network, this day part I show America's One. You know, I
Right. Right.
cherry picked the best of the programming
Yes. Yes.
from different networks,
Right.
gave it
Right.
on different time frames.
Right. Right.
And so that's the reason I had so many satellite.
You weren't obligated just whatever was showing. You could pick it. You could pick and choose
Yeah.
as you wanted to. Okay.
Yeah. Go back. Let me tell you a story about the satellite dishes where I got it on my mind. You talking about all these satellite dishes and talking about money involved. I can remember the first satellite dish that I had,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy came in. You know, they come under they when you're in professional television,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I guess where the big money is,
Mm-hmm.
and they charge what they want to, but they call these guys engineers, okay? And I hired this engineer to install the satellite. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was charging me $1,000 a day.
Oh my
That's what they were
God.
charging to set up a satellite. So okay, well, Tony, when these so-called engineers got there,
Mm-hmm.
they looked to me, and I don't mean to be judgmental, but that's just what I thought at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They looked to me as being backwoods hicks, uneducated
What?
backwood hicks. You know, no, half of them didn't have teeth in the mouth. But anyway, but they was good at what they did.
Right. Right.
They
Right.
could set up this satellite and get what I want and walk away with $1,000 that day.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
but I can't. I learned. I learned from them. And I said, well, I can't afford these folks every time I need something. So I
Mm-hmm.
watched them
Right.
install satellite. Okay,
Right.
I
Right.
watched them what they did, and I learned from what they did, and then based on other stuff that I learned, I installed all the rest of those satellites myself,
Wow.
Tony.
Wow. Look, you
Yeah,
got at least
mhm.
what 7, 8 of
8
them
of
out
them out
there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Wow.
I installed them myself. So
Wow.
yeah, and so that saved me a lot. That saved me a lot of money
Oh my goodness.
by doing that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just simply amazing that you had the ability, no background in it, but you
God
had common sense.
had common
And that's
sense and
important
God.
because, I find out a lot of these people that have went to school,
Hmm.
they got the book knowledge, but they don't have common sense.
Yeah.
If it ain't written in the book, they said there was this. There's a story you got where it was a simple plug in. Tell us about that.
Okay. Yeah, you're right about it, Tony. Remember I told you I was upstairs, right?
Right.
And I moved when I expanded to the downstairs, and I
Mm-hmm.
built out that studio
Right.
downstairs and everything. But not knowing, because I had 2 sets of whoever was in that building, obviously they had the upstairs doing something and then
Right.
downstairs doing something else.
Right.
In other words, it was feeding off 2 different power boxes. Okay.
Right.
And not being an engineer, not being an electrician, not
Mm-hmm.
being anything, I ran into a problem. It was a grounding problem,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know it was a grounding problem.
Right.
So but I still had a lot of stuff upstairs. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my equipment and all that stuff. I had an equipment room where my transmitter was.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had my equipment where my VCRs and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff was. They
Right.
were still upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had to run the line down from the upstairs, which was powered from one power box, to the downstairs studio,
Mm-hmm.
which was powered by a different power box.
Right.
Well, I did not know that I would have a grounding problem.
Right.
And when I hooked everything up, I ended up with a lot of buzzing and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
right,
kind of
right,
stuff,
right, right, right,
and I
right.
couldn't figure out why it did. And I went to a lot of so-called experts, and they told me some very expensive solutions to
Mm,
how to resolve
yes,
that
yes.
problem. Then when you talk to, and don't tell you no story about the antenna, and when you talk to uh, some folks with some common sense,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll tell you. And I talked to some guy, I can't remember who it was, that told me, he said, well, you have to lift the ground. And the reason you have to lift the ground is because he said, because you operating on two different power sources.
Right, right,
And that ground from upstairs, you have to ground it to the one that's down, to your power source downstairs.
right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He said it's a complicated way of doing it and a simple way. He said you can have the whole place rewired and reground and stuff like that. That's an expensive process.
Right, right.
He said, but here's a simple solution.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you see these, these adapters,
Yeah, I remember.
those two prong,
Yeah, I
that two
remember
prong
those. Right,
adapters, the three prong.
right, right,
A lot of that stuff equipment was three pronged. Okay,
right, 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 right.
and so the simple solution was that because I had to lift that ground. So only thing I did was a 15 cents adapter, okay,
I
to,
remember buying. Yeah,
to put it on there from
yeah.
going from three prong to two
Two.
prong,
Right, right.
solve that
Wow.
expensive problem, Tony,
Right.
that would have cost me thousands of dollars otherwise. So it just
I tell you, I learned that from you when you told me about that. And every time I go and I hook up something, if I'm running two proms, I put all two proms. In fact, I got a lot of those little adapters. Yes, yes, you
yeah,
turned me on to that.
absolutely. Another issue I had, and like I say, we have a lot of ups and downs, but God take care of babies and fools. He
Yes,
took care
yes.
of me. I had another expensive problem that I had when I was on cable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like you remember, I told you that cable got these big tall towers, and
Right,
they
right.
put their antenna up in the air,
Mm-hmm.
200 feet up in the air, and so they can get all those stations
Right.
coming in clear. Well, remember I told you there are certain stations on the reason you can't have this, channel 12 in Pensacola,
Mm-hmm.
because the full power station in Montgomery. Okay,
Right, 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 right.
and they can, and the reason they 200 miles apart, because they can, what they call co-channel interference. They can interfere with
Right, right, right.
one another. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so that what was happening when I got on cable. And I know with CB radio and ham radio, you know what I'm talking about. When
Right,
they
right,
said
right.
when the skip come in,
Right,
when
right,
because
right.
all
Yeah.
those signals bounce off the
You can hear other people
ionosphere.
talking
Yeah,
over others. Yes, yes, yes.
exactly. And these
Mm.
and these and these and these signals can travel hundreds and thousands of miles
Right, right,
on the
right,
cloud and bounce off.
right.
But anyway, but higher up, that's even true today. The higher up you put your antenna, the more channels you can receive. Okay,
Wow.
and so they had their, so the cable company had like an antenna like 200 feet up in the air, so
Mm-hmm.
they can get all the channels that
Right, right.
they that was surrounding them, and they was able to get channel 12 and so forth. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
when that ionosphere comes in, it comes in once a month. Channel 12 in Montgomery used to step away. We said in the TV, in the radio, but he used to step on me.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
had co-channel interference because
Because
they
12 are bleeding in
they're
over you.
bleeding. And I couldn't do nothing about it because I had to accept their interference because they're there, and you couldn't do nothing about that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it was a problem, and the reason it's a problem because sometimes when you're looking at TV
Mm-hmm.
and your TV looked like it was Venetian blind,
Right, right,
that,
right,
yeah,
right.
all that means is that two stations trying to come in at the same time.
Right,
My
right, right.
station trying to come in, and then sometimes, Tony, I get up and I turn my TV on to channel 50 at that time
Mm-hmm.
on cable. Channel WSFA TV in Montgomery was on. They
Really?
just stepped all over me. They're just
Wow.
powerful. So I had to find out how to solve that problem on cable. Okay, and so they all the engineers now
Mm-hmm.
gave me a very expensive solution.
Here we go again, right?
Here we go
Yeah,
again
yeah,
to the problem.
yeah.
Then, but like, I don't give up. I keep calling. I keep asking because that's one thing I learned in life. To every complicated problem, there's a simple solution.
Right, right,
Okay,
right.
I'll remember that. For every complicated problem,
Mm-hmm.
there's a simple solution to the problem. I called a guy out in Wyoming, an old engineer
Mm-hmm.
out in Wyoming, And I explained to him what my problem was. He said, "Son, and you know what your problem is." He said, "As the reason you having that problem," he explained to me about how the wavelengths. You know, when you got an antenna, TV antenna is the reason your TV antenna is flat like that is because the TV waves they when they broadcast horizontally, that's what the TV waves. Your antenna is flat, so they can pick those signals up crossway.
Right.
Radio station does it opposite. They do theirs vertically. That's why you got a antenna sticking straight up and down, like you got the antenna on your car. It's straight up and down because they're not doing it horizontally. They're broadcasting vertically up and down. But TV's crossing you know, like this.
Now let me ask you this before you go. Now is that's where the VHF and UHF come in?
Yeah. The VH. Yeah. That's what the VHF. The UHF and the VHF is the frequency. I'm gonna go back to talking about VHF. When television was first invented, if you will, everything was on VHF. Okay, that was VHF was king, just like in the radio.
Right.
You know, when it's an AM radio.
Right.
AM radio king. That was when the first was invented. That was everything was on AM radio. Then later in the 50s, they had FM radio. They decided to go to the FM frequency, add the FM frequency, and then they, at the same time, well, television was on the VHF frequency, then they added the UHF frequency. But it took it a minute for those frequencies to kind of catch up because it was new. Nobody was on the UHF channel. Nobody was on the FM channel. Not until after the 60s and late 60s and 70s when these TVs, as we got new TV stations, because all of the VHF frequency was taken, then as you want a new TV station, you had to go on the UHF frequencies. And that they had that new station to come on UHF. Okay. And so that's how you ended up with your VHF and your UHF.
Oh, okay.
Same thing with radio. That's how you end up with AM radio and FM radio, because now all the newer stations on FM and the older stations on AM. So you still got so even today, we still got these two frequencies, AM radio and FM radio and VHF frequency and the UHF frequency on that. Now, and like I told you, in the the TV frequency broadcasts this way. You know, that's the lane horizontally. Radio station frequencies vertical,
up and down,
vertical, straight up and down. Okay, and you can't because TV and radio they don't interfere with each other because they're on different bands or different frequencies. TV can receive horizontal signals if you got an antenna that can pick up horizontally. And you can get horizontal. Now I'm getting back to my point about solving my problem because Channel 12 in Montgomery and also in Tampa, I had the same thing. You would think these stations wouldn't interfere. They would,
especially Tampa.
Tampa would interfere with me. New Orleans used to interfere with me, and because the cable company had their antenna so high that they could receive those signals. They didn't receive them all the time, but they could receive them when the atmosphere is just right. Okay. So, but that was causing me all kinds of problems on the cable system. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And obviously that affects your ability to sell as well, because when they look at the channel, your channel looks worse than everybody else because you can't get it because you can't. But anyway, I had to solve that problem. Okay. So I called this engineer. I guess he was an engineer, an old guy that been in the business for a long time, and he explained to me about the VHF and the UHF and how they promulgate. And he said, your problem is, number one, they got the antenna so high in the sky, they're getting everybody. Because they're using the same antenna that they use with everybody else for Channel 12, and they're getting everything. They tell them, number one, to put your antenna up about 50 feet, not 200 feet, about 50 feet, because you want yours lower than everybody else because you can reject those other channels. And then he says and you take one of your antennas, and because I had 4 antennas. If you do circle,
Right,
do
right, right, right.
do a full 3-foot circle. You have one
Mhm.
going north, east, west, and so. But the one antenna that I had pointed towards the cable company,
Mhm.
he said, take that antenna, since it's flat like that.
Mhm.
He said, you just turn that antenna vertically. He said,
Oh my goodness!
He said, turn it
Wow.
vertically. Have the cable company to turn their antenna vertically,
Mhm.
and so now you broadcasting vertical signal, vertical to vertical. It
Oh,
rejects all of the horizontal signals.
wow.
That cleared it up, Tony. No problems from then.
Now,
From
what kind of challenge was to have the cable company? Were they just said, "Okay, let's do an audio figure"? Well, he don't know what he's talking about. Was that a challenge to get them to do it, or was it an easy thing?
to get them to do it.
Yeah.
No, well, no, that wasn't a challenge, because all the technical. The only problem I had was the manager, the technical
Okay,
folks,
gotcha.
because
They
they wanted
understood.
the channel. They wanted, because it still reflected on them, because
Right,
it
that's
was
true.
Coxie, it was their channel.
Well, right,
Okay,
right, right.
so they wanted they didn't have any problem with me. They did lower the antenna. They did everything that I suggested, and the channel cleared up,
Wow,
and they had no more problems with what we call co-interference. And
wow,
so it cleared it up, and we broadcasted like any other television station. We had a station, we had a studio,
wow,
we had a sales team,
wow,
and everything went fine. We became a member of the Chamber of Commerce,
wow.
and they had a and then channels. They had a program at the Chamber of Commerce that they call a I forget what they call it, but it's kind of a buddy partnership.
Hmm.
Your bigger business help a smaller business.
Right, right,
Okay,
right, right.
and so Channel 3 actually said we would help WBQP.
Really?
Yeah, they volunteered. Channel
Wow.
3 volunteered and said mentor. They had the mentor
Mentor.
program.
Yeah.
They had the mentor
Right.
program. Okay, and so through the chamber, so they
Hmm.
became my mentor, and we were really successful, Tony. We became 1996. We became the small minority business of the year.
Really?
We got the
Wow.
minority business of the year
Wow.
award. And then at the same time, remember all those satellites we've seen out there,
Yeah.
different
Yes.
programming.
Yes. Yes.
Then if the WB, you're talking about a national network, like Channel 3 was ABC,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
Channel 5 was CBS, Channel 10 was NBC,
Hmm.
and then finally they got Fox on. But one of the, I think it's Channel 15 was Fox, something like that. But anyway,
Hmm.
they came out with a brand new network, okay? Brand new network called the WB,
Warner
Warner Brothers.
Brothers.
Remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
In
Yeah, I remember that.
1996, Warner
Yeah.
Brothers.
Yeah.
And so the Warner Brothers did not have an affiliate. And plus, the Warner Brothers for the first time was catering to the
Bernard.
minority audience, had a lot of black programming.
Hmm.
So I contacted somebody out in California, in Hollywood, or wherever it was. And yeah, when the Warner Brothers came out, we became the first Warner Brothers affiliate on the Gulf Coast. And
Wow.
and I would think now we're a real TV station. We got a real clear signal. We got a station and everything, and we got a national network.
Wow.
How you would think that the cable company would welcome that and just add your own, but
Especially because you're the first WB.
the first
Yeah. Yeah.
WB, first network,
And they,
national,
and they didn't even have WB playing on
they
there.
no, they did not have WB,
Wow. Wow.
and because they had me,
Right.
they
Right.
had me. So, but they still charge me every month for it. But anyway, that's okay. That's okay. But the WB, it helped us. It
Mm.
helped us increase business because it gave us legitimacy work now,
Right.
and
Right.
so we was able to make that work really good
Mm.
to our advantage, Tony. And so in 1996, we became the minority station of the year, and we were doing really well. And then from that day forward, from that time forward, from
Mm.
1996. And speaking of WB, we were the first, we were the only station
Hmm.
in this market that carried the OJ trial gavel to
Right.
gavel.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Remember that.
of the
Yeah.
WB. And from 1996, from that point on to 2004,
Hmm.
we was, as they said, we were doing the damn thing. We
Right.
money.
Right.
We was, you know, doing everything.
Yeah.
And until Hurricane Ivan
I was
came
going to
through.
mention that it's amazing how life situations can change overnight. Because that Hurricane Ivan was just like an overnight. In fact, it happened overnight. Got back up the next morning, boom, Pensacola had changed, and something changed forever. You know,
Yeah.
so it's how did you was able to respond and to regroup from Ivan? Tell us what Ivan did for you or did to you. I
Okay.
know what it did to me at my house,
Okay.
but as for you at your TV station, what did Ivan do to you?
Okay. Well, let me go back before I get to Ivan again, because something I forgot to mention to you
Okay.
too. From 1996. In 1997,
Mm-hmm.
we became the very first station in this market
Mm-hmm.
to have a website. You believe you
Oh
think
yeah, I
about
forgot about
today,
that. Yeah,
you
yes,
think
yes.
about today website is common, but we were the first one to ever have a website.
Wow.
Thanks to the you know, when people coming out of college, they got fresh ideas. And
Right,
I
right, right.
had this guy, Britt used to work for me, not the elder Britt, you know, but this
Oh,
guy,
right, right.
he was a student at one of the colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, Mr. Watson, he created my logo, the logo I got. In fact, he
Really?
created this logo we got here.
Really?
Okay. And he asked me one, he said, well, you need to.
So the WB, that's the logo he created.
He created a logo for me. Right.
Wow.
He sure did.
Wow.
And then he said, you need a website.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what is a website? I had no idea
what
about what a
a
website was or
was.
anything. He said, you got to have a website. You need a website.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. Yeah, you do. You'll thank me later for it.
Right,
I said,
right.
well, okay. If you want to build me a website,
Mm-hmm.
build me a website. He did. He
Wow.
built me my very first website in 1997.
That was unheard of.
It was unheard of.
Oh wow.
In 1997.
Wow.
And we the only station. It was not until a year or two later that the other TVs, even Channel 3, all of them had an actual website.
Wow.
We did some cutting edge thing. We were the first one that had a website, and we were the first one to have a tower cam.
Yeah, I remember the tower cam.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see all over Pensacola
yeah,
and what was going on.
I had this vision of putting that camera up on that tower so we could look all around Pensacola.
Right.
And we were the first one to do that. Now it's common. Every TV station in the world got tower
cam now.
We were the first one in Pensacola
to have one.
Now, I'll tell you another thing that you helped me with this. You know, you can remember that. First we were the first one to have an be on internet TV station. Remember?
Oh yeah, yes.
And what we decided to do, because we partnered with WRNE Radio.
Right.
Remember, had Hill on he used to come on. We had Hill on in the morning,
right,
from 6 to 9 in the morning,
mm-hmm.
and we used to broadcast that around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, we got emails. Now emails were rare back then, but we had emails coming in from around the world. So we see your picture and
oh my goodness,
you send us logo, you do this and another.
Wow.
And so we was back then between 2000 and 1996 and 2004. We did some really creative, innovative things, and we did really well. And then Ivan hit.
Before you go to Ivan, I thought about the ones in Pensacola. We remember this or not. You also were the first in Pensacola to have a telethon. Remember the telethon? Had the weekend, the Saturday and the Sunday telethon.
Yeah,
that was the first to have a telethon.
Yeah, and you know, another thing that really made us successful then, we did things unique. Remember, we had our Black Santa Claus every year. Right. Run the Black Santa Claus. We had Santa Claus, and we had a man called Janice the Christmas Man.
Yes.
Janice the Christmas Man, Tony, if you remember, it was just opposite of Santa Claus, but he was black.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We used to have Janice the Christmas Man on and Santa Claus. Santa Claus obviously was in his red and white.
Right.
He had a sled and he had reindeer. Where Janice the Christmas Man, and obviously the Santa Claus from the North Pole, where Janus Christmas Man was just the opposite of Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
He was from the South Pole,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't have a sled. He had a hot air balloon. Okay, and he wore blue and white,
right,
and everything, and
right.
he was what we call Janus Christmas. It was a concept developed by a white guy. I can't
Really?
remember the name, out of Milton, Florida.
Hmm.
And so for years, we played that up as Janus the Christmas Man every year. Every year the kids used to call in. We had that live
Yeah, I remember that. I remember
every
that.
year that the kids called in. And we had Santa and
Yeah,
Janus Christmas Man,
right.
so we can have black kids can identify with the mythical character of Santa Claus, you
Right,
know,
right, right.
and it was, and you know, and a lot of the history was lost with that when I moved from one location to another, because we got videos of all of that we had during those years. But those was from 1996, Tony, to 2004 were the golden
Yeah,
years
yeah. Wow,
for WBQP.
wow. And then all of a sudden,
All of a sudden, 2004, never forget it, September 16th, 2004,
wow,
Hurricane Ivan hit, and everything changed
change from that point.
from that point on.
Wow.
It destroyed, it tore down that whole big old tower we had,
Right, right.
and destroyed some of the buildings, destroyed some. In other words, we had to start completely
Oh my goodness.
from scratch all over again, Tony.
Wow.
And it took us about a year to rebuild. Okay, because number one, I had to you see that, go back to your picture that I want to show you that tower.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much smaller version. Okay, and it was much like the tower that you see in the back of that building again.
Mm-hmm.
You see a tower that is much
Yeah.
like the tower that I had at home. I had to build that, and so that I can send the signal over to the tower company.
Oh
And,
yeah, because
and
the other tower was a humongous
a big
tower
old
up.
tower, yeah, a huge
Yeah, I
tower.
forgot about that.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's the one that fell all the way across over there on almost to Fairfield
Fairfield
Drive over
Drive,
there.
right? Yeah, that's what's
Wow.
going. The hurricane
Wow.
Ivan completely destroyed that, and so we had to rebuild and tore part of the building out because all of the
The
stuff was
wires
attached
it
to the
kind of
tower.
pull
Yeah,
out when the
pulled
when
out
yeah.
and destroyed all the equipment and stuff like that. And
Wow.
so, in other words, we had to start all over again, Tony,
Oh my
all over
goodness.
again. So I built that tower that you see there, so I can first of all get a signal over to the at least to the cable company. But it
Right.
took us about a year to do that.
Wow.
And but in that year, we lost all of our
Yes.
customers. We had a
Yes.
we
Yes.
when we found to be able to get back on the air,
Right.
both on the air for because once you off the air, we off the air with the FCC as well as with the
Oh
cable
yeah.
company. So we
So
had to go dark until we can put the antenna back up.
now
Okay.
how did that affect your license, and did it affect that or
No, they put the license on hold. You
okay.
still have your license, but you was in what we call a dark status. You
Okay.
can't,
Okay.
because you're not transmitting. You couldn't your license wasn't active until you put another antenna up, and
Right.
they
Gotcha.
give
Gotcha.
you, because when you put the license to you what your original license. I was licensed to be up 400 feet.
Right.
Okay, but I had to put a short antenna up about 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Then what they did, they just gave me a temporary, what they call an STA, a temporary license,
Oh, okay.
until I can get back to my
Back to where
normal.
you're supposed to
Yeah,
be in. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
and so that's
Okay.
what we did, and got that, had to buy new equipment
Mm.
and everything. Um, Everything had to start all over again from scratch in 2004. So it took us from that into 2000. Well, that was 2004. So we got back on the air late 2005. Okay, and again we lost all of the most of our customer base. We had a few folks that, like I said, a few folks that stayed with us,
Right. Right.
because they said, and by the time all the other stations that we had stole,
The
I
other
say stole
customers.
the
Yeah.
customer that we
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
because we had some successful thing. We were the first. Talking about the first, you
Mm-hmm.
see Wanted Fugitives on these other stations.
Right.
Now.
Right.
We created that program. We
Really.
created Wanted Fugitives at WBQP.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, and so uh, a lot of things that we did and a lot of customers that we had, because we was off the air for about almost a year.
They took that idea and ran with it.
Somebody took the idea and ran with it, and took the customers around. Well, they took that show. What they did was that we had the racing show. We had a lot of shows.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because they wanted the shows on, and they took their shows down to Blab and other places to go.
Right.
So we was off the air.
Right.
By the time we got back on there, we was able to get it back about 25% of our customer base, and we had to build, from that. Okay.
Wow.
Now a lot of things, the industry at that time was changing. Tony, by the time we bought all of this equipment, and remember I was telling you about the difference between analog TV and digital TV. Well, the FCC by this time had authorized the change in the TV standards in America. They were going from the analog TV to digital TV.
Right.
Okay. Which means, again, you had to start all over again.
Oh my God,
Tony, we had to start all over again with the digital world because
cutting the cord.
But they realized that how things come in back in evolution again. When we started looking at when the TV was first invented, we had antennas. Now we're right back to that same concept.
People are using
putting antennas again because they found out that they can do the same thing the cable company doing. Stick them an antenna in there and get all of those channels, high definition and all sub channel on every TV. Now every TV station in the country have more than one channel. You don't have to worry about 3 channels, 8 channels now.
Right.
You can have in this market, Tony, we can get 70 channels over the air. 70 channels. If you put your antenna, I get mine up 30 feet up there at my office. I get 70 channels.
Wow.
All around us. And so with that, it's just like you alluded to just a while ago, that if you got a smart TV, every major manufacturer, okay, LG, Samsung, Sony, Vizio, have their own sets of cable channels,
built in for free.
So when you hook your antenna to it, okay, not only do you get all of your local channels, what I found out, we were paying for the local channels on cable, but you not only get your local channel, when you get to the end of your local channels, then it automatically put you into those other channels with thousands of channels, thousands of channels. Now, not only that, you have the channels, then you got the apps. You got all kinds of apps that you can. Well, folks finding out that rather than paying a couple $100 a month for cable, they can get the internet and get all their programming with the apps and get all the local programming with the antenna. Best thing that ever happened.
And then
the
the other good thing about it, they're not limited to staying at home. They can take WBQP over the road anywhere. They can take all them other channels because they got the same apps. And 80% of those apps are free now. They used to be you had to pay so much per month for each one. Now, because you got a lot of free one out there, it's forced those other ones to just about give them to you for nothing. Or you can see the same programming. That because all we was watching is reruns anyway. Let's say hypothetically, we want to watch Sanford and Son. We used to have to wait till it came on a certain time. Now you can put Sanford and Son on and watch it all day long if you want.
But you know what changed that, Tony? I mean, the reason when they got 4G, 4G technology changed the game. Now we got to 5G. Now they're talking about 12 and 15G now. So it's changed the game. Now you don't have to worry about buffering and all the other kinds of stuff like we used to have on there. And now you get thousands just with the internet. You get thousands of channels now. And so, but to make a long story short, as far as WBQP is concerned, we're on board with that. You can get out. We got streaming channels. You can get us on the streaming channel. You can get us on the local channels, with your antenna. You can get us on social media now. And you can get us on internet TV. So you don't need to have a cable system. And the good thing about it now, we're talking about the mobile app. We have a mobile app. You can take your tablet or your phone or your computer and see us anywhere,
Anywhere.
anytime in the world. They missed this show, Tony. It used to be a day when we used to sit in front of TV and the Tony Williams show comes on at 7:30 on Tuesday nights, right? And it comes on once a week. And if they want to see this show, they had to be sitting in front of that TV on Tuesday night at 7:30.
Yes.
If they missed that show,
yeah,
they missed it.
They missed it.
Unless they recorded it.
Unless they did a rerun or something.
Rerun recorded it.
You missed it.
Yeah, they missed it. So, but in today's environment, you can miss all you want to. Because now, if you miss the show, you can see it on demand.
See it on demand. Yes,
you go to your phone, computer, or your TV, and bring it up on demand. You all those shows you that Tony Williams show you missed, you might have missed it forever, or you have to wait till they rerun it. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just see it
on demand.
On demand.
Yes.
On demand. That's what we got going for us today. And that's what put WBQP back into the game.
Wow, that's amazing.
Back into the game.
That's amazing.
And but we didn't get out of the woods yet.
Right.
We're not out of the woods, bro. You know what happened? You know what happened next, right?
Yes.
COVID.
Yes.
COVID came in, and again, like I said, behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining.
Right.
COVID shut everything down, and we had to reimagine and rethink how we're doing the TV business. So, as far as I was concerned, I think that COVID, as far as business is concerned, for my business, probably one of the best things that happened to my business. I thought the worst thing because we couldn't do anything. We couldn't bring people in the office. But it turned out to be that wasn't a bad thing at all, because guess what? We had to cut staff, and we found out that all of that fat, we didn't need that fat.
Right.
We didn't need that fat. We was doing things the hard way.
Right.
You know, we had studio set up. If I wanted to do a show, you want to do a show, just like we doing the show in your living room right now.
Right.
If we wanted to do a show, we had to come out to the studio.
Right.
Set up in the studio, and you got to take the time to take off an hour to get there, and then half an hour prepare, and then you do the show and all that kind of stuff. Then you have to edit the show and all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
With today's technology, all of that, you know what I'm talking about, all that to the wayside now, because with COVID, one of the best things that happened to us, this technology they call Zoom. Zoom technology
took over.
Took over, and Bluestream. You know, the Bluestream, all this stuff had been in the industry for years.
Right, but it been lying dormant.
It's been lying dormant. I'm telling you another thing, just we videoing this show with a phone.
Right.
Think about it.
Right.
We used to have, remember those expensive cameras we used to have, stuff like that, and
$8,000, $9,000, and $10,000 or more cameras. Yes.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Per camera, and then you have to hire people to operate them and stuff like that.
The big digital mixers and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
And so, with COVID, it forces people to not rely on brick and mortar anymore. We can just use virtual things. Right now, I don't bring anybody into the studio unless some people just insist because they just not older folks that just not hip on the technology. We bring them into the studio and set them up and stuff like that. But for the most part, I can do any show anywhere in the world virtually, and it can be seen anywhere in the world virtually. And it really saved us a lot of time. It saves us a lot of money. And equipment. Like I say, we the only reason you see TV stations use these big old cameras now because they don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these cameras. They got to get used to it.
They got to get used to it.
But those cameras can't do any more than an iPhone can do.
Right.
We shooting this show with an iPhone.
Yes. Okay. Nobody would never believe that we doing this shit with an iPhone
and an iPad.
Yeah,
an iPhone and an iPad they used to take. If you not imagine you a big old camera over there, big old camera here, big old camera there, big old camera there, fix it all around. Somebody in the studio doing a switcher and all that. You got it in the palm of your hand. How beautiful is that? It's amazing.
Yes.
So that put us back into the game.
Yes.
So that put it right back into the game. And not only that, as far as WBQP is concerned, back in the game. Now, again, I'm still, because I'm a low-power TV station, I'm still limited in what my broadcasting view is, okay?
Right.
On Channel 12, I can only get the regional area. I mean, the regional area only Pensacola and what I call the greater Pensacola area, Pensacola and Santa Rosa County, and
Right,
a little
right.
bit over in Baldwin County, Alabama.
Right.
Okay. Because of the technology, what I've done, WBQP have done, I leased the channel from a full power station.
Right.
WPAN TV, and we on 53.4.
Right.
That gets us out from all the way from Mississippi all the way to past the Destin.
Wow.
So up in Monroeville, Alabama. So our picture can be viewed in the whole market now.
Wow.
And another thing has happened as well, because when you got other televisions, because of digital technology and because people have multiple channels, not only that, we own channel in Birmingham. I got a sub channel up there. So what we're doing is going around the country, so you're gonna have a WBQP blueprint anywhere you go. Almost. Right. And so that's what we're doing as far as the television part of it. If you looked at TV on antenna, and a lot of people still looking at TV on antenna. Yes. So you can't miss us. So, but if you're not looking at TV, and I just read an article just last night, Tony. 50% or more, no, 64% or more people today, these young people, are getting their television from the internet. 64% of them getting their from the internet. So therefore, it is important for us to be on these streaming channels. Right. Okay? Right. So if you got, and everybody got a Roku TV. Everybody got one. Everybody got a Fire Stick. Yes. Okay? Yes. We own those streaming channels. Fire Stick. Everybody got an Apple TV. Yes. We own that. And not only that, Tony, we got applications in for all the major. You remember you was talking about all the channels that LG and Sony and Samsung got their own sets of cable channels. So now to be on the TVs when it's built. Yeah. So we got an application in with all those companies to add WBQP to those channels as well. Oh wow. So Samsung has approved us. With the other one, we're still pending. I don't know when we're gonna show up on those sets of channels. So when you go from channel 12 throughout on those cables, you should be able. It's not if you got to understand, it's not one of those apps. It's on on the system. Yeah, it's on their system. So when Samsung, like when I cut my Samsung on, and I do an update, and when the update, it gonna update all the new stuff that just came in. And if everybody already got a set of automatic update, you ain't got to do nothing. You're right. You just cut the TV on it, automatic got all the new updates. So wow. Yeah. Now, so we'll be on like channel 1055 or something. I don't know what channel they put us on, but But then you still got the streaming channel. Then not only that, you talking about all the you got channels on social media. Right. We got a YouTube channel. Right. Okay? We got a Facebook channel. Wow. We got a Twitter channel. Wow. We got a Twitch channel. Oh, we got about 7 or 8 different. We own 7 or 8 different social media channels. We got a channel on all social media. So, and we got our own mobile app. You just download the WBQP app anywhere in the world on your Apple TV or your Android TV, and you can tell Alexa to find us. So my goodness, Tony, it's amazing how. Wow. Yeah. Wow. The only reason you can't find us now is because you just don't want to find. You don't want to find. The only place that we're not on right now is the actual cable companies. Well, we don't need to be. We don't. I'm gonna say, what is that? Because I mean, I don't even never think about cable companies and stuff like that. I hadn't cable in so many years. I really don't even never think about them. Yeah. Don't even know they hardly exist no more. Yeah. 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 Because everybody is doing the phone and the streaming apps. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And so this has been an amazing journey. Yeah. To know where you started from and where you at today. And you didn't give up all the rides and all the falls. Yeah. And this should be encouraging to someone that maybe you didn't have a TV dream. You just had a dream to do whatever. Yeah. If you don't give up and go through regardless of the ups and downs and the falls itself, I was too stupid enough to believe I couldn't do it. Wow. And I did it.
Wow.
I did it. As they said, I did it my way. I did it. And just like that bumblebee,
Yeah.
you know, I might not have the equipment as MGM Studio have.
But you
I
but
might not be broadcasting as big as the big other television stations,
right.
but I'm out there and I'm doing something important for the community. I'm doing a service for our community. So that's how that's why we're so symbolic of
Right.
that bumblebee.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's just simply amazing. Well, Brennan, this has been a eye opening. This has been a lesson for me, things that I did not know that I discovered about WBQP and the struggles. And this
Yeah.
have encouraged me, and because I have go through stuff, and sometimes I feel like giving up when it
Mm.
ain't working. But this just been a lesson to me to hold on and hold out. There's the scripture that said the race is not given to the swift,
Mhm.
neither to the strong, but he that endures until the end. And that's what you have been doing,
Yeah.
endure until the end. Is
I
there
hope it is not
anything?
the end.
Well,
It's just the beginning.
yeah, well,
I
I
hear
know,
you.
right. In other words, don't give up,
Don't
don't give
give
up,
up.
don't
Right.
give up. Is there anything else that we miss? Any other areas that we need to go in? That
Tony, it's so much. It's been almost 32 years now.
wow,
It's
wow,
been so much water in the bridge. I know we forgot a lot of important facts or anything you can think of, you can ask. But it's been an amazing journey. One wouldn't think that I would ever make. I didn't would think that I would make 32 years,
right.
but 32 years later, I'm still standing.
And
32
and
years
speaking of
later.
that, where do you see WBQP 10 years from now?
I actually see again because of the opportunities with the streaming channel. We worldwide right now, Tony. This is a fact. This is a
Mhm,
fact. And I show you the analyticals on it right now.
mhm.
Our station is being viewed in over 133 uh,
Countries.
countries around the world.
Wow.
We know that for a fact because these are analytics
Right.
that come back. Unlike what we're looking at today is unlike what Nielsen used to tell you, and that's another problem I had because couldn't get Nielsen ratings and more
Right.
in the TV business you get Nielsen ratings, the more advertising you can get. But
Right.
but Nielsen was just a sample. You know, they didn't really know who watched television.
Right.
They took a sample of what they sent out. They used to send out send you $1 and you fill out these little surveys,
Right.
and then they use that as a sample and guess that how many people you watch TV. Well, with today's technology,
They actually
they
know.
know how many watching,
Right.
how long you watch,
Right.
and all that kind of. I want you to notice too when you on. And there's one thing I had to learn the hard way too. And I never knew this. I saw this all the time. When I
Hmm.
used to watch my Roku TV or used to watch Netflix and and so forth. And if you don't have no activity on it for a
I know
long
where you're
time,
going with
they ask
it.
you a question:
Are you
are you
still
still
watching?
watching?
Yeah. So
Well,
you wonder how did it know
how
where
do you know?
you?
Yeah, how do you know you're
Yeah.
not watching? Yeah, but they know that.
Yeah.
They know that, and then
Yeah.
they cut itself off. So they
Right.
know
It
how
cuts
long.
itself off. Yeah. Yeah.
They know who watching,
Yeah.
when you're watching, what time you're watching.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that's just a technology in the world that we live in today.
Right.
And so we know that these are real analytical and real facts now.
Right.
And so that's why I know that I can get a report on my internet TV.
Right.
I can get a report on how many countries, how many people watch. I can tell you, Tony, I can tell you how many people in Russia watches my
Wow.
TV station. I can tell you what city in Russia,
Wow.
how many cities in
China.
China gonna
Yeah.
come out in
Right.
Chinese or whatever,
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
sure is.
That's simply amazing.
Yeah.
How technology does that. It's just
It
simply
is
amazing.
amazing how it does that. It just
Wow. Wow.
well, you can see that for yourself. You can go to eBay and they ask you what language
Well,
you want to
yeah.
translate the language and yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. That's true.
yeah,
Yeah. Even the phone now, you talk. I had repair people to come and they couldn't speak English good, but the translation, I just said in the phone, and just
right.
translate over what they saying.
Exactly
It's
right.
amazing where we at today. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
The technologies is in our hands.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
The technologies is in our hands, Tony.
Yes.
The technology is in our hands and that played to WBQP's
Advantage.
advantage. Yeah.
Right.
So again, God took care of us and we're still here.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to know about?
Well, you know what? I tell you what, I have the. I was sitting up here trying to think. Is there anything else
you was going to ask me about I want to get back to a question you was asking about a truck, about the TV truck we had.
Oh yes, 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 yes. About the truck at the station.
Yeah,
Yes.
That,
Tell us about that.
oh, okay, well, we're going back again, back into the glory days of WBQP between 2000 and I'm sorry, between 1996 and 2004.
Mm-hmm.
But we was able to buy back then. In order for you to get a signal, if you want to do something broadcast, you had to have a truck to go out and so you can send your signal back to the station. Okay.
Oh,
yeah. And like again, and again, let me tell you what happened to make that possible, Tony. God, again, divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Now we were able to. You remember I told you we had a link up between the TV station, radio station, with the Hill to do Hill in the morning.
Right.
And so I bought this used equipment, what they call 2 gig equipment. That what news gathering and stuff. That's what the news people go out when they go out and do news and send the signal back to the station. Well, I use that same technology to send that signal to get Mr. Hill on in the morning. But I just had that just from his tower to my tower.
Right.
And so, but in order for me to go out and do anything local, I had to have a truck just like Channel 3 or the other thing, and so I can send it back to the station.
Right.
And so that's the reason I was able to buy a truck, okay? And so we can go out and do remotes and all that kind of stuff and send the signal back to that truck had a big old
the boom on it with the dish on it.
Go by and we can do the parades that way. A lot of stuff like that.
Wow.
We can talk about the MLK parade, but anyway, we was able to do all that. That was the reason that we had the WBQP TV truck. Now, let me tell you how technology is changing. Changed, okay?
Yeah.
And we don't need a truck anymore.
Right.
Only thing we need now is this.
Yes.
Is this cell phone. You see my cell phone here, right?
Yes.
That's the only thing we need to send that signal back.
Right. We have done some of the live with the phone.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to go back to we were talking about how everything goes in full term.
Right.
I'm back. I'm back at the house. I got a studio back at the house. You know the reason why I got a studio back at the house?
What?
Because of COVID.
Right.
Remember, couldn't go in the office sometime because I had to I reopened my home studio.
Oh my goodness.
And with the technology we got today, so I got a home studio. I sit at home and do all of my, like you doing this interview here, I do all of that just from my home studio.
Wow.
I can do it also. I got a little studio at the station. I can do it at the station as well. But that's how advanced the technology have grown now, and how things come in full circle. I'm still back at home now, where I used to be completely out in the thing. So
and now I got a studio at home.
Back at home. Yes. I don't have to be. Only time I'm at the studio when I want to be at the studio.
Right.
I don't have to be at the studio anymore.
Right.
I can get up and I can broadcast anywhere around the world.
Wow.
From my home. I got it linked to my towers. I got it linked to the station. I got it linked to Birmingham. I got it linked everywhere that I got sources to.
Yeah, I done seen some of it work firsthand.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just simply amazing how technology is, and the people that want to come on, and you know what? This is another good thing, that churches don't have to worry about coming to a studio. Most of the churches already videoing, whether YouTube. Now all they have to do is just, you can link this directly to WBQP through your system.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad thing. It was a good thing.
Right.
Because you couldn't go to the places that you had to come to. The place had to come to you.
Right.
Churches now, we didn't have to go to church because they wouldn't allow us to go to church.
Right.
So they got smart and they start streaming their services.
Right.
And which was a good thing.
Right.
Okay. Now, but the only problem with their churches streaming it is they just streaming it. They still have to get to that audience that still look at TV.
Right,
You
right,
got
right.
the older audience, those older folks that don't have a tablet like you got,
Right,
don't
right.
know how to use these cell phones.
Right,
They
right.
still look at TV,
Still look at
and
TV.
they want to see their pastor
Right.
on TV.
Right. They don't know how to go to YouTube,
Don't have to
Facebook,
go
and
to
all that
YouTube.
other
Don't
stuff.
know how to
Right.
do all internet. They don't know how
Right.
to do all that stuff.
Right,
You
right.
still got to have
The TV.
television. That's where we come in.
That's where you come in at.
And they can still use us for TV, because everybody got their own way of looking at it. Okay.
Right, right.
Some people still sit down in front of TV. Some people don't look at TV at all.
Right.
Young people, particularly,
they don't
sit down and look at TV.
No, no, no.
They look at the tablet, or
Right.
they look at the phone, or whatever.
Right.
So we got to be able to reach those folks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the old folks, we still have to use the old traditional ways of getting to them, because that's what they used to listen. They used to waiting to see the Tony Williams show at 7:30 on Tuesday night, and they don't have a DVR. They don't know how to operate a DVR. They don't have VCRs no more, and stuff like that. So they still sit there, and folks in the nursing homes, and just like we started before.
You're talking about
They still sit there in front of a television set.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have they don't know how to operate the computers,
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. So they have a TV set in front of them, and that's what they rely upon for their services and so forth. So, yeah, WBQP is back in the game. We stay in the game, and you said where we're gonna go from here. I can't see but good things for WBQP worldwide, Tony.
Yes.
With the offset of the digital technology and 5G technology, we can be in anywhere in the city where we right now with the internet TV or anywhere with streaming and video on demand. We're anywhere and everywhere.
Wow.
And so I think the future is bright.
Oh, yes.
For WBQP.
And with the technology, a person could be in a Smoky Mountains and decide they want to do some shooting, call you up and say, hey, I want to do some live broadcasting from the Smoky Mountains, over in Israel or wherever. And with the technology, all they have to do, call you up, you can set it up and connect to it.
Remember, you talking. Go back to that truck again. We were talking about that truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much energy? You see that truck there? You know how much it took 2 or 3 people to operate that truck. You had the boom, have somebody there operating it, stuff. Had somebody operating in the back. Yeah. Well, right now, Tony, you went out, and that's just to do a regular remote.
Right.
You went out with your cell phone, and you did a remote for me. Was it the I can't remember what it was. Was it the
Johnson Beach?
Johnson Beach thing. You over there in Johnson Beach. Yeah. And just beam with your phone. Your phone. Send it back to the station live with your phone live, just like that. Like we was there. You didn't have to have that.
Then I had that truck and all that, and everybody,
boom up and taking it down, and all that other kind. And then plus two with the truck, you had to be in the line of sight.
Right.
If anything blocking you, you may get the signal off.
And you may not.
You may not. I couldn't use the truck downtown because buildings and trees and stuff like that. Right. Cell phone.
Wow.
As long as I got a signal, I can send you. I can get that signal. Like you say. You can be over in Russia. Reverend Powell went to Selma on the March crossing. We do that live every year on his cell phone for the Selma crossing.
Really?
Yeah, on that annual thing they do every year.
And also Martin Luther King Parade every year. Wow.
Luther King Parade.
Wow.
Every year.
Wow.
We to do it live. We can just do it right now. We just do it by cell phone.
Wow.
And then with the onset of drones and
aerial
views.
Yes.
Oh, I love the technology. I'm loving this technology.
Yes. Technology has become amazing. They said technology could be your best friend or your worst enemy. I think it'd be your worst enemy if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because other than that, technology only can be used by the person that's using it.
Right.
Yeah. Let me kind of rephrase, because now we got AI coming on board.
Yeah.
So, but that's further down the road hopefully by the time AI get fully operated, we get AI to work on our behalf.
Yeah. Well, I think people are afraid of AI because it's new. And the same thing was happening with people with television. I mean, with computers.
Right.
And they was afraid of that. Same thing when we went from one millennium to another one. People thought something's gonna happen.
Right.
We just have to embrace this new technology.
Right.
And hope it. Any technology you can use for your disadvantage, but hopefully we can use it for our advantage.
And I think you don't judge the bad person that make it work for bad,
right?
And shoot the whole technology down,
right?
Just because one person abused it. If that's the case, we would never drive a car.
Exactly.
Because if a person get in the car and runs into folks one night, so we ain't gonna drive no car because of that. No, you just got to. My wife used to say, you have to separate the meat from the bone. Yes, you got to know how to do it. Yes.
And that's what people are gonna have to learn to accept. You know, we're not going from gas cars to electric cars.
Right.
And people still afraid of that. We're going from driverless cars to driverless cars.
Right.
It's just all of this new technology.
Yes.
And rather than fight the technology, let's embrace the technology. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it could be, like you said, it could be your best friend or your worst enemy. It's up to you however you choose to use it.
And the younger generations is embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason the older generation, they sometimes people afraid of stuff they don't understand. You know, like some folks didn't want to use the phone. You know, you talk about AI. It's been around Siri on the phone. I mean, we've been talking to our phone ever since iPhone been out with Series.
Right.
And with the Androids and all that. So we've been doing this here, and it's just moving to another level now. Yeah. Just like the cars, like your car drive itself and stuff like that. We just moving to a different level and know how to embrace it. Yes.
Well, it was just like the difference between flip phones and smartphones.
Oh yeah, I remember the Star Trek flip phone.
Yeah. So but a lot of folks don't trust it like a regular TV and a smart TV.
Right.
There's so much difference between the two.
Yes.
That don't fight it. And it kind of reminded me, Tony. I'll tell you a quick funny story, true story.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, not talking about fighting technology.
Mm-hmm.
Found her TV went out.
Mm-hmm.
And she went somewhere and bought a TV, and she got home and she couldn't find the knobs on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So she took it back and told the folks that they gave her the wrong TV. She wanted the TV, and he was trying to explain to her, "Ma'am, TV don't have knobs.
Don't have knobs no more.
We control everything remote. Now, I want TV. I don't want no TV with no damn remote. I want one with a knob on it." They don't exist anymore.
Right.
So rather than her fighting that technology,
so she embraced it.
Learn how to use it.
Yeah.
It just, excuse me, Tony. It's just you learn to use this technology to your advantage. I want to tell you another quick story too about credit cards and debit cards. I always believe in credit cards.
Right.
But I used to didn't believe in debit cards. Okay. And I fought using debit cards for a long time. I don't know how I got forced into using debit cards, Tony. But once I started using a debit card, it used to be my worst enemy,
and
but
now
it became
you love it.
My best friend.
Yes.
I don't have to write checks. I don't do all that kind of stuff. It was great. And just like we were talking about this technology right here now. So I'm an Android man. Right. And but in this business, Apple is the preference. And I've been fighting Apple for a long time. Okay. And I know. And it's just part of trying to learn the new technology.
Right.
And I know what everything you're doing today in the palm in your lap.
Yeah.
In your lap.
In my lap.
Right here. An Apple tablet that he's doing this stuff with Apple tablet.
Here. Yeah.
And two Apple iPhones.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing how he can switch.
Yeah.
He can do everything in the palm of his hand. Full TV station.
And bring up your old building.
Broadcast quality stuff in the palm of our hands.
Yeah.
So we need to embrace all of this new technology.
Right?
And so that's all I'm saying. Instead of being afraid of
now, this ain't no plug for Apple now, y'all. No. But I guess it is, but we ain't getting paid for it.
No, we ain't getting paid for it. But it's a plug for the technology.
It's a plug for the technology.
Apple just happened to be the one that
just
like Tesla to be the one that get credit for the EVs, the e-cars.
Right.
Apple could be getting credit for this kind of technology that we're using today because nobody else out there got anything like it can
Yeah.
work any better. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that's
You can
true.
make movies. You can make MGM. I mean, Hollywood
Oh yeah.
is using iPhones to make movies.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, they
I mean,
use the iPhone to make movies. They use the tablet to do the editing.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I never would have thought that this would have been. And now, not only that, you could be talking to someone and see them while you're talking to them on your phone.
The Jetson stuff.
The Jetson,
You remember
the Jetsons, they talked about that. Yeah, yeah. The Jets, the flying cars, the watches.
And the watch. Dick
So
Tracy
you're doing
talked
it
about
with
that in the 30s,
with
right?
the Apple watches and all that. You know, it was showing us the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought we were just watching a cartoon or something, but it was showing us what the future going to be like.
Yeah.
And now the future is no longer there. We are living in the future right now.
Yeah.
It's
And now future is AI, and people don't understand that, and robots and stuff like. But we talked back then. But that's what we got to understand. The technology is changing. We have to embrace that technology. Don't be afraid of it.
Right.
Just embrace it, and you're the operator, so you got to get smart.
Right.
And operate, so you don't lose any jobs. You can, it will increase jobs or enhance your job.
Right. Right.
And so that's what people. But some people are so afraid of it, they don't want to touch it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so they try to down it. But again, WBQP has always been on the cutting edge. If we have had some real serious monies or backers,
oh my goodness,
we'd have been dangerous.
Oh wow,
I chose purposely. We talking about WBQP. Asked me why we still small at 32 years. I still want WBQP to be personally owned.
They can reach out and touch.
Somebody they reach out to, but I'm talking about the actual ownership.
Oh yeah, because if it had not, when you get cooperation in, then they'll want to change it, and then they want to boot you out.
Yeah, and they will boot you out. Ask Tesla and all those.
Oh
folks
yeah.
That when you go into corporations, you don't own it anymore. Ask what the man. You lost his name, the Cookie Man. What's his name?
Oh yeah.
Famous Amos.
Yeah.
When you get into that, so with that, I purposely didn't take investors or anything like that. I wanted to keep it personally, and I want to keep it in the family. So
you can make the decision.
I make the decision whether I right or wrong.
Yes.
It's just going to be on me.
Right.
When you using somebody else's money,
then
you got to
do what they want. You got to do what they want to twist you on. So that's amazing.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what kept me small and kept me where I'm at right now. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it.
Right.
I couldn't imagine what would happen. Knowing my personality, Tony, I like to be in control of what I like to be in control of.
Right.
But when you lose that control, when you take other people's money,
right.
I didn't like that. So
right.
We 32 years and we still here.
And you're still here.
Yeah.
Wow, it's just simply amazing how this journey have been and where it's heading from here. And it's only because you don't went down, so it's only upward to go from here. Because all the platform now have made it easy. You done did the hard work.
Yeah. So
the platform have made it more easier, and that it could just be smooth sailing from here on in. It's just a simple. And I once again I take off my hat and I pause to Mary standing and having the idea, because if she had not have been behind you, it never happened. It never could have happened. It'd have been a struggle. Yeah, you could have. I won't say you wouldn't have done it, but you wouldn't have done it easy if you done it. So and if you got to fight, if you fighting, it'd have been more struggle to do it. Yeah. And so it's all things works together for good.
Well, thank God she supported it. She's been my biggest supporter.
Oh yes,
she supported in it, and I guess she's like me. She's too stupid enough to believe that I can't do anything, but it obviously works out.
Well, it's not. It's we may use that word when you say I was too, but it's not that. It's the drive you had. It's the purpose and destiny. See, purpose and destiny will make you do stuff that the average person won't do because they don't understand what's pushing you. They can't see the invisible hand that's nudging you in your side when you want to give up. there have been an invisible hand in your side pushing you, giving you the unction and giving you the ideas, insight, and the concept to keep going another day.
Yeah.
And that's why you here today and
Yeah.
continue to be here. And I tell you what, I have enjoyed every moment. And I know we missed a lot.
Oh yeah.
This just part one. Because you know when you're making volumes, you make several volumes. Volume 2 picks up and refresh stuff that you missed off of volume 1.
Yeah.
So this is just going to be volume 1 of the beginning of WBQP and the struggles, the near misses, and everything that would happen. So we're going to say stay tuned for part 2 of WBQP. The beginning. That's a pretty good name.
Yeah,
WBQP, the beginning. Is there anything else that you can think of in this particular part 1 that you would like to add?
I don't think I think we done beat this horse enough, but so much stuff, like you said, in a different part 2 of a different volume of the interworkings. We talked about the most of the outer shell of the station and how we got from point A to where we are today.
Right.
But within that, a lot of stuff went on in between that.
Yes.
In turn on how to make this thing work. Okay?
Now that's what I would like to see. All those pictures you were talking about that everybody heard us talking about it, but once you see it, you'll be like, wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. You know, the hardships and the good times.
Right.
How you raised, but we basically raised the children.
Oh yes, Monique and Liv Vernon. Yeah. We didn't even talk about them in this. Wow.
We hadn't talked about the very first show that I did in my studio.
Oh yeah.
At home, we hadn't talked about the first news show we did with Rachel Gasson. Did the news show.
Oh yes.
We hadn't talked about. It's so many interworkings.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I forgot about Rachel. Oh bless her heart.
Yes.
Rachel. In fact, it was Rachel that brought me to WBQP.
Really?
It was Rachel that did it. And when I met Rachel and Rachel introduced me to you and I told her my dreams and what I was trying to do, it was Rachel that did it. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's just amazing.
Folks like Miss Mary and the different folks that made a difference.
Right.
So we didn't do this by ourselves.
Right. Oh yeah. I know that.
A lot of folks. You was there.
Right.
Mr. Suleiman was there. Suleiman helped me build that station out.
I remember he was there when the tower fell down.
Yeah, he was there
because I almost been there that night, but we decided to stay at home.
Me too. Yeah. I almost think
we always talking about being at the station
because it was a secure
broadcasting and being on, while it's going. But everybody decided to go home, but Carl decided to stay there.
Carl stayed there.
Yeah,
but the building was safe.
Oh yeah, the building was safe. Yeah.
But it blew down the tower. But anyway, that's a whole new show.
Yeah. No.
In volume 2, we'll talk about the interworkings.
Yes.
Of the good times and the hardships and the different things that we went through to make this station work. And a lot of good stories in there, a lot of not so good stories happen along the way.
Right.
And just interesting stuff. I should write a book about it, but I'm too lazy. But I want to do a video book. So
Most people don't want to, and see, this is a good thing. Most people don't want to read, but they'll sit down and watch the tape.
TV, exactly.
Exactly. They'll watch that.
Yeah.
And you know what would be good? Even some of the people that's still around and still living that played a hand, maybe I can schedule an interview with them to incorporate it into when we do part 2.
Okay.
Right. Inserts.
Right.
Like Carl or whoever, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
well, maybe okay. I know we got to go with this one, but I wrote a book, Tony.
Oh, you did?
I wrote a book, but it's not about station. This is totally different.
Oh, okay.
But we want to do a series. I never published my book. I wrote a book, but I never published it.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than publishing it, I want to do a series. Like you just made something very important. Some folks not going to read a book, but to sit down and look at TV.
Right.
We're going to talk about that book. The
yes.
next venture is to go through my book.
Now let me ask you this. Do you want to give us a tease, or you want to just wait till the next? You want to tease us a little bit, give us something
about the book?
Yes, you want to give us a tease?
Yeah. Well, the book is about relationships and people. Okay, and it's more of a relationship book on how people would know about each other.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's too many times that in a relationship that causes problems in relationships is only because what we don't know about each other. Okay.
Right. That's
And
true.
so we have to learn my book is all about.
Yeah, so we don't want to spoil it and say no more about it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Wow, wow.
Okay.
So we have really enjoyed this section of dealing with Mr. Vernon Watson, talking about the beginning of WBQP, and I'm looking forward to the next time. And we're gonna say until the next time, so long for now.
Thank you, Tony, for having me.
Thank you.